Chapter 2088. If Ling Han's actions today were to spread, it would definitely scare people to death. He even dared to extort someone from the ancient pill tower. He was tired of living. But Ling Han had done just that. In any case, he had already offended the Celestial King tier force behind Tian Qingyue and the others. So what if there was another ancient pill tower? Because of Ling Han's results in identifying medicinal herbs, his payout rate had also been dropping, and had even surpassed Xie Yuezhang and the others. It was only a measly 1-1-6, and he could be said to be the hot favorite to become the champion now. 3 days later, the pill concoction competition began. After the first round of eliminations, there were about 1,300 participants left. This was still a little high. The Alchemy Plaza of the 100 Dragons City did not have so many alchemy rooms to concoct alchemical pills for so many people at the same time. Thus, every 100 people formed a group, and they would proceed in batches. They would be able to complete all the competitions in about a dozen or so days. Ling Han, Alchemist Ri Yang, and the others were all arranged to appear in the last group. This was arranged according to their results in identifying medicinal herbs. The better their results, the later they would appear. And everyone believed that the final champion would definitely be born from the last group. Time passed quietly. 12 days later, it was finally Ling Han's turn to appear. Ling Han set off with the 3 women, and Fu Yu also followed them. They had just stepped out when they saw Xiaogu walking over. Xiaogu, where have you been all this time? Ling Han asked. Though Xiaogu's name had the word Xiao in it, in reality, it was an old skeleton that had existed for who knew how many years. Thus, it naturally could not have entered the 100 Dragons mystery realm, and no one knew where it had been these past few days. Xiaogu, where have you been all this time? Xiaogu imitated. Even its expression and tone were exactly the same. Forget it, I'd better not ask. Ling Han smiled and continued forward. Xiaogu also followed them. Not long after, they arrived at the Alchemy Plaza. This place was very large, and was specially prepared for alchemists. Pill concoction competitions would be held regularly, and every alchemy room had the effect of accelerating time by 100 times. Therefore, it usually took 1 to 2 days to refine the pill in the outside world. The concoction time for a 4-star pill was about 6 months, but for a 5-star pill, the concoction time would instantly jump to 10,000 years. Moreover, this was only for the first heavenly layer. The 9th heavenly layer would even require a long period of time recorded in eras. At the very least, up until now, no one had ever refined a 4-star medicinal pill. Hence, the first few groups' competitions were all settled in a single day. Everyone entered the alchemy room one by one. Then, outside each alchemy room, there was an alchemist and 3 apprentices in charge of supervising to prevent anyone from cheating. Of course, the spectators could also play this role. Ling Han also entered, sat down, and waited for the competition to begin. Everyone had to prepare their own alchemy materials, and of course, the refined pills would belong to them. What kind of pill should I refine? If it was a little more reliable, it would definitely be refining a 3-star pill. But it was said that alchemist Ri Yang Wu Zishu and the others were only a step away from becoming 4-star alchemists. Perhaps they would break through in this alchemy competition. In this way, Ling Han's lead in recognizing medicine would be erased. Even if everyone's results were the same, a 4-star alchemist would definitely be able to perform 5 spirit refinements. Then, in the 3rd round of spirit refinement, the other party would obtain a true advantage. Ling Han shook his head. He could not accept failure. Then he would refine a 4-star pill. There was a blazing fighting spirit in Ling Han's heart. He had yet to successfully refine a 4-star pill, and was always lacking that final step. He always felt that he was lacking something. Would the pressure this time turn into motivation? Ling Han wanted to give it a try. If he failed, so be it. He had not much interest in entering the ancient pill tower in the first place. Making a name for himself here was only to attract Lu Herong over, and bring them back to the Rock Palace. Yuan Tongguang actually used the matter of entering the ancient pill tower to threaten him. He was really ridiculously wrong. Fine. Then he would refine a 4-star pill. There was a hint of madness in Wu Zishu's eyes. At first, he had planned to refine a 3-star pill. Moreover, it was the Ice Phoenix pill that was the most difficult to refine among 3-star pills. But now he had changed his mind. He should not be able to defeat Ling Han with this 4-star alchemical pill. He felt as if something in his heart was about to break. This was a sign that he was about to break through to the 4-star alchemist level. He had felt this before, but it had not been as strong as it was now. It gave him a strong feeling that he would definitely succeed today. Just wait, he was the #1 alchemy prodigy. Alchemist Ri Yang gently caressed his own pill furnace. This furnace had accompanied him for tens of billions of years, and could completely be considered a part of his body. It was more important than his lover or children. Normally no one could touch it, but as he caressed it, he suddenly exerted force in his palm. Ka ka ka. Instantly, multiple cracks appeared on the walls of the pill furnace, and instantly covered the entire furnace. This pill furnace was actually forcibly shocked. When refining, pill furnaces were all designed to be resistant to fire. Thus their ability to resist attacks was very poor. Who would desperately slap their pill furnace when refining alchemical pills? A pained expression appeared on Alchemist Ri Yang's face, but there was even more determination in his eyes. Without destruction, there would be no construction. He had not broken through for a long time because he had stayed too long in the memories and glory of the past, so he had never wanted to come out. But now he had a reason to win. Thus, he personally smashed the pill furnace that represented his past. Today it was a new beginning. Alchemist Ri Yang's aura instantly underwent a drastic change. His gaze was sharp, and he felt as if he had become a completely different person. The path of becoming a 4-star alchemist would begin today. A genuine smile finally appeared on Xie Yuezhang's face, which had always been smiling. He was the standard example of a late bloomer. He had actually spent as long as 1 billion years to become a 1-star alchemist, but he had actually only spent 1 billion years to become a 2-star alchemist and a 3-star alchemist. Another 1 billion years had passed, and he had enough confidence to advance to 4-star. And now was the opportunity to push open the door to becoming a 4-star alchemist. She decided to concoct a 3-star alchemical pill, and it was the phase pill that she was most skilled in. There was no need for it to be too difficult, because she had a secret weapon. The one who will win will definitely be me. Ling Yongchang's expression was filled with arrogance. Who knew that he had already become a 4-star alchemist 60 years ago, and the strongest alchemist here was only a 3-star alchemist. He was completely bullying them. When he had been identifying medicinal herbs, he had actually almost succeeded in the 8th stage. It was only because of some small mistakes that he had failed at the last moment. But in the field of alchemy, he had absolute confidence. He did not care about the title of champion, and he would voluntarily withdraw from the competition after impressing everyone with a single brilliant feat. What he wanted was the shocked and disbelieving expressions of others. That would make him feel very good after he had won. Then, he would magnificently withdraw from the competition, showing off to the extreme. You're just a mere 3-star alchemist, and you actually dare to suppress me? This time, I'll let you know what a true genius is. The spectators had all arrived, and were eagerly anticipating the start of the alchemy competition. Different from identifying medicinal herbs, in which nothing could be seen at all, alchemy was very lively. Why is the crystal wall over at Pan Luoling's place so blurry? We can only see her rough appearance, but can't see the medicinal herbs in her hands. Someone suddenly asked curiously. It was more refreshing to read on a phone. Chapter 2089. There seemed to be a problem with Pan Luoling's alchemy room. Only a very blurry image could be seen from the outside, though her appearance could be seen, and it was indeed her. Everything else was too unclear. Someone reacted, but the reply from the ancient pill tower was that there was a small problem with this alchemy room. But the competition was about to begin, so they couldn't call a halt at this time and affect the others. In any case, it was just a little blurry and wouldn't affect the overall situation, so they left it at that. Though this kind of excuse was not very satisfactory, who dared to question the people of the ancient pill tower? There were no more problems, so they could begin. After the order was given, the competition of the last group also began. Ling Han had long since been studying 4-star alchemical pills, and had even received guidance from Grandmaster Zicheng. He had discussed with this Grandmaster many times, and was only a step away from success. He took out the celestial medicine. Celestial medicine was naturally required to concoct celestial pills, but the grade of the alchemical pill was different, and the age requirement for the celestial medicine was also different. Generally speaking, concocting a 3-star alchemical pill required a celestial medicine of 10 billion years old, and a 4-star alchemical pill required a celestial medicine of 100 billion years old. As for a 5-star alchemical pill, the celestial medicine required was measured in trillions of years, and even an epoch was not rare. That was naturally 9th heaven celestial medicine. Even Ling Han only had a small piece of this kind of celestial medicine. It was an inconspicuous root that looked like ginger, but in terms of value, it was enough to make most 4-star alchemists feel a sense of embarrassment. Turtle Poria was 400 billion years old, and had been specially prepared by Grandmaster Zicheng for him. Even someone as wealthy as Grandmaster Zicheng felt his heart ache when he took out such a good thing. Ling Han also felt his heart ache, because this turtle poria could only be used a few times. Previously, he had already tried to concoct it a few times, and the consumption of the celestial medicine was very great. This was the main ingredient, and of course, there were some supplementary ingredients. The majority were saintly medicines, and there were also some celestial medicines that were around 100 million years old. Ling Han took a deep breath, and was in no hurry to start concocting. There was a time acceleration of 100 times here, so time was relatively less valuable. Secondly, the time limit for the competition was 10 days. Under the acceleration, there would be around 3 years. This was more than enough time to concoct a 4-star alchemy pill, and he would fail several times. Ling Han calmed himself down. After a full 7 days, he finally began to move. His movement was like a bolt of lightning, as fast as lightning. Under the acceleration of time, time flew by, and before long, 3 months had passed. Path Pill Furnace exploded, and it even blasted Ling Han's face black. 2 more chances. Ling Han murmured. It wasn't that he didn't have enough time, but he only had enough materials for 2 more attempts. He was not in a hurry to start the second time. Instead, he closed his eyes and recalled the details of his failure. Unfortunately, he couldn't enter the Black Tower under the watchful eyes of so many people. Otherwise, it would only take a moment for him to reflect under the reincarnation tree. He sat there for half a year before starting his second attempt. Everything progressed smoothly, but when the 5th month arrived, the pill furnace exploded again. I'm so close to the finish line. Ling Han felt that it was a pity. If I still had 3 portions of materials, I would have 100% confidence that I could succeed. But now, I only have 1 last chance. It's either succeed or die trying. He once again began to sit there and reflect. And after another half a year, Ling Han opened his eyes, revealing absolute confidence. This time he would definitely succeed. He was the kind of person who could explode with endless motivation the more he was forced into a corner. Right now, he already had no way out, but he wasn't anxious or impatient in the slightest. On the contrary, his fighting spirit was like fire, his confidence soaring, and his desire for success filled him with passion. Come! He began his 3rd and final attempt. If he still failed this time, he would only be able to concoct a 3-star alchemical pill. Outside, people came out in succession. Some people had already succeeded long ago, but they were not satisfied with their current situation. They wanted to concoct an alchemical pill that was more satisfactory, and so they continued to concoct. However, when the time in the outside world reached the 8th day, most people had already finished concocting, and all walked out of the alchemy room, handing over the alchemical pill they had concocted to be appraised. The alchemy room door opened, and a young man with a slender figure walked out. Quick, Wu Zishu is out. What alchemical pill did he concoct? After so long, it must be a 4-star alchemical pill. That's not for sure. He might have concocted several cauldrons of 3-star alchemical pills. As the crowd discussed, Wu Zishu strode out, a sliver of pride on his face. He had succeeded. He wasn't defeated by the pressure. and instead completed his self-improvement, successfully opening the gates of a 4-star alchemist. From now on, he could be called a grandmaster, a true grandmaster of alchemy. He handed the alchemical pill he had concocted to the alchemist outside for appraisal, his hands behind his back, appearing very confident. Incomplete Dao pill 4-star normal standard. After a simple observation, that alchemist gave his conclusion. Instantly, the surroundings were in an uproar. 4-star alchemical pill. Finally, someone had successfully concocted a 4-star alchemical pill. At present, this result was the undisputed first place. As expected of Wu Zixu, he managed to break through and become a 4-star alchemist even under this kind of pressure. Heavens, how old is this guy? And he's already a 4-star alchemist. Sigh, this is called talent. We can't be envious. Everyone looked at Wu Zixu with envious eyes. This time, those who had come to participate in the competition were basically 3-star alchemists. 2- and 1-star alchemists were completely too embarrassed to come. At most, they would only test their ability to identify medicinal ingredients in the first round of the competition. The difference between 3-star and 4-star alchemists was like the difference between Immortal Palace tier and Ascending Origin tier. It was as if one was heaven and the other was earth. This time, Wu Zixu will definitely be the first place. After this round, his score will be able to tie with Ling Han, but a 4-star alchemist must have reached the 5th refinement in spirit refinement. Thus, he will definitely be able to win in the 3rd round. I said it long ago. Wu Zixu will definitely be the first place this time. Thankfully, I bet on Wu Zixu to win the championship, and also a few 100,000 star stones. I also bet all my fortune on Wu Zixu. Just at this moment, the door to the alchemy chamber opened again, and an old man with a fluttering white beard walked out. Alchemist Ri Yang. How is it? Everyone became curious again. This was a veteran alchemist, and it had long been said that he would become a 4-star alchemist. But year after year, Alchemist Ri Yang still remained at the same spot. However, no one dared to underestimate him. Alchemist Ri Yang showed a smile and opened his hand. There was a purple alchemical pill spinning in his palm. Heavenly Purple Jade Pill 4-star. An alchemist beside him blurted out. Then he clasped his hands in salute to Alchemist Ri Yang. Congratulations, Alchemist Ri Yang, for finally advancing into the ranks of 4-star alchemists. Alchemist Ri Yang smiled faintly and stroked his beard. He appeared very reserved, but the curl of his lips betrayed him. He was obviously extremely proud of himself. It's hard to say now. Chapter 2090. A single alchemy competition had produced 2 4-star grandmasters. This was something that had never happened in the past Pill Dao competitions. Exciting. Only then would there be suspense. Otherwise, the champion would be decided before the 3rd round even started. How boring would that be? At this moment, the door of the alchemy room opened, and the 3rd alchemy genius walked out. Xie Yuezhang. Don't tell me he's also a 4-star grandmaster? It's hard to say. That's right. If someone told me in the past that an alchemy competition could make 3 people break through to 4-star grandmaster at the same time, I wouldn't believe it. But now I really can't be sure. Xie Yuezhang still had a faint smile on his face. He opened his right hand, and there was a dark green pill in it. Is this the jadeite pill? It looks like it, but the jadeite pill is only a 3-star pill. Sigh. Xie Yuezhang didn't continue his legend, and maintain the miracle of breaking through once every billion years. That's not realistic. How many people can do that? Everyone shook their heads and felt pity for Xie Yuezhang. Someone had finally fallen behind in the competition of alchemy geniuses. However, the eyes of the supervising alchemist lit up. He stared at the dark green pill for a while and said solemnly, 3 golden dragon patterns are faintly discernible. This is not the jadeite pill, but the golden dragon ocean wave pill. What? Hearing such an evaluation, the crowd was boiling with excitement. The golden dragon wave pill was a genuine 4-star pill after all. Hiss, another new 4-star grandmaster. Heavens, what day was it today? 4-star grandmasters were born one after another. It was as if the heavens were blessing them. This is like the golden age of martial art. Sometimes there won't be a single celestial king in hundreds of billions of years. But in the age of geniuses, celestial kings will also appear. And the number will be shocking. However, witnessing this scene with my own eyes is still shocking to the point of numbness. A proud smile appeared on Xie Yuezhang's face. Then, he walked toward Wu Zixu and alchemist Riang. He didn't need to fear them, because they were all 4-star grandmasters. Next, it would be their level in spirit refinement. 5th refinement was for sure, but the specific level would be different. Squeak. Right at this moment, Pan Luoling walked out. Without waiting for the others to react, she stretched out her hand towards the supervising alchemist, who also quickly stretched out his hand to receive it. The entire process was astonishingly fast, and because both sides' sleeves were covering each other, they did not even know what the alchemical pill looked like. Black Gold Immortal Bone Pill. 4 stars low quality. The pill master opened his right hand, revealing a pill that was as black as iron. Another 4-star master. Everyone looked at each other. But this time, no one made a fuss. All of them were extremely suspicious. What did you guys mean? There was a clear rule that the crystal walls of the alchemy room had to be absolutely transparent, so that people outside could inspect it. And when handing over the alchemy pills had to be clearly displayed. This is to prevent cheating. However, when Pan Luoling was refining the pill, the crystal wall was very blurry, making it impossible for people to see clearly. Moreover, when she handed over the pill, it was also very ambiguous. She suddenly took out an elixir and announced that she had refined a 4-star elixir. How could anyone be convinced? Thus, after a short period of silence, the scene immediately fell into a state of chaos. Many people protested. It was not as if no one knew about the relationship between Pan Luoling and Yuan Tongguang. Now that she suddenly made such a move, who wouldn't suspect that something was fishy? What's with all the noise? Yuan Tongguang appeared and swept his gaze across the crowd with extreme disdain. Don't you know that this will affect the competition? Whoever makes a ruckus will be expelled immediately. This attitude made people even more dissatisfied. Weren't they clearly cheating? Request to test the age of this Black Gold Immortal Bone Pill. Someone suddenly called out. Yes, test the age of refinement. This suggestion received the approval of many people. If this pill had been refined by Pan Luoling, then it could not have been refined for more than 3 years, including time acceleration. Thus, if it exceeded this age, then it must have been refined by someone else. Test the age of refinement to show fairness. 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 More and more people followed suit. Some people were indeed full of righteousness, while others didn't mind the commotion getting bigger. Yuan Tongguang's expression was very difficult, and his face was as dark as water. He was the dignified grandson of an elder of the ancient Pill Tower. And he couldn't even settle such a small matter? Wasn't it just a championship? Was it so difficult? Creak. Just at this moment, the door to the alchemy room opened again, and Lin Yongchang walked out. He casually tossed out a crimson pill. Crimson Flame Earth Fire Pill. Lin Yongchang's supervising alchemist involuntarily reached out to catch it. His gaze swept over, and he instantly revealed a shocked expression, because this was another 4-star pill. What? This is too exaggerated. Everyone exclaimed. Many people were shocked by this news, and temporarily forgot to pursue the matter of Pan Luoling. Medium quality. Instantly, the uproar of the crowd became even louder. Medium. It was actually medium. For example, though Xie Yuezhang and alchemist Riyang had both refined 4-star pills, in terms of quality, they were merely low-level. This was actually very normal. Who could reach medium quality as soon as they became a 4-star alchemist? However, Lin Yongchang was an exception. No one could be an exception. There was only one possibility, that this person could refine medium quality 4-star pills. He had long been a 4-star alchemist. Heavens, so young. The fire of life could not deceive people. This guy had lived for at most a few 100 million years, but was actually a 4-star alchemist. Inconceivable, too inconceivable. Everyone looked at Lin Yongchang with reverence. Such a young 4-star alchemist. And his alchemy level had reached medium. They could not help but admire him. Lin Yongchang revealed a reserved smile. He was now waiting for Ling Han to come out. He would first humiliate this person, and then announce his withdrawal from the competition in a high-profile manner. Then he would be able to act cool. Coincidentally, the door to the last alchemy room was also pushed open, and Ling Han's figure appeared. He was slightly disheveled and his clothes were black. They were dirty from the explosion of the furnace, and he had not had the time to clean them up previously. Ling Han, where's the alchemical pill you refined? Lin Yongchang asked. He could not wait to attack Ling Han. Ling Han glanced at him and said, "What are you rushing me for? Are you the supervising alchemist?" Lin Yongchang was rebuked by him, and his face involuntarily flushed, revealing an expression of anger. However, he knew that he was no match for Ling Han, so he naturally could not take the initiative to make a move and humiliate himself. He only glared at Ling Han hatefully. He only needed to wait for a while longer. There was no need for him to lose his cool like this. Ling Han did not give Lin Yongchang another look. He spread out his right hand, and in his palm was an alchemical pill that was so crystalline that it was almost transparent. In the center of the alchemical pill was a green tortoise. It was small but very lifelike. It was even moving its 4 legs, as if it wanted to leap out of the alchemical pill. Black tortoise thick earth pill. Instantly, the people nearby all exclaimed in surprise. It was a 4-star alchemical pill, and the difficulty level was not low at all. Chapter 2092. Ling Han thought for a moment and clapped his hands. That's the only way. He didn't believe in Pan Luoling's strength at all. She must have cheated to achieve such a result, and in the round of spirit refinement, as long as he was clearly better than her, it wouldn't be a problem to overtake his ranking. Lin Yongchang was the only one standing in front of him, and he should have been ranked before him. As long as they were equal in spirit refinement, he could take first place. Since Lin Yongchang wanted to die, what could he do? Ling Han, are you crazy? Fuyu came back to his senses and hurriedly shouted in shock. He was really crazy. He actually dared to kill an heir of the ancient pill tower in 100 Dragons City? How tired was he of living? Then, do you mean that I should swallow my anger? Ling Han asked as he stared at him. Fuyu was speechless, but he immediately said, "But you definitely can't do that. You can't succeed. This is 100 Dragons City, and there are ascending origin tier elites in the pill hall. If you want to commit murder, you'll be the one to die." Ling Han broke into a grin and said, "That's right. That's too dangerous." N. Fuyu hurriedly nodded. Ling Han patted his shoulder. "Then you can do it for me." Fuyu instantly wanted to vomit blood. He didn't want to be tricked either. "I can't do it, and it's useless even if you want to. You're too weak." Ling Han retracted his hand and looked down on Fuyu. "That's right." Hunyo clapped her hands in agreement. "And trash." The Empress was the same. Fuyu was going crazy. Why were these people's brains different from others? It wasn't a matter of killing Lin Yongchang, but he definitely couldn't be touched or killed. That would cause a huge storm. However, there's someone who can. Ling Han smiled and looked at Xiaogu. However, there's someone who can. Seeing this, Xiaogu thought that Ling Han wanted to play with him, and couldn't help but imitate him. "Xiaogu, kill someone for me. Xiaogu, do it for me." Xiaogu did not miss a single word. Ling Han sighed. It seemed to be unrealistic to ask Xiaogu to kill for him. Aside from imitating others' words, this guy only knew how to defend passively. Only a practitioner of another cultivation system could make him take the initiative to attack. What to do moreover, it was indeed as Fuyu had said. Lin Yongchang was the successor of the ancient pill pagoda. The security around him was definitely very tight. Wanting to kill him without him knowing wasn't too realistic. Even if Xiaogu was willing to make a move, with this guy's idiotic personality, he would probably cause a commotion that the whole world would know about. Xiaogu was also placed to the side for now. "Oh, I got it." Ling Han suddenly slapped his thigh. Whether or not it succeeds depends on luck. He set off alone and headed towards the pill hall. However, he wasn't heading towards Lin Yongchang. Instead, he was looking for the pill room. The next round was spirit refinement, which required ready-made medicinal pills. To ensure that there wouldn't be any cheating, these medicinal pills were provided by the ancient pill tower. However, they were only 1-star medicinal pills. Thus, there was no need to be afraid, even if the spirit enhancement failed. The losses would be limited. What Ling Han hoped was that these medicinal pills had already been arranged beforehand. He used the regulations of space, and his figure was like a ghost. Even dividing soul tier elites would have a hard time discovering his traces. However, this couldn't be hidden from Immortal Palace tier elites. Who? A figure suddenly dashed out from the house. It was an astonishingly tall man. His expression was filled with suspicion. He had clearly sensed an unfamiliar aura. But when he ran over, he didn't discover anything. He had been cultivating too hard recently, and had gone mad. After a while, this man finally returned to the house. Ling Han came out from the Black Tower. This was his true support. The regulations of space were merely the icing on the cake. Xiao, that man dashed out again. The suspicion on his face was even thicker because he sensed that unfamiliar aura again. However, when he ran out, he didn't discover anything. This was driving him crazy. He circled around the vicinity before returning to the house. Ling Han came out from the Black Tower again and leaped forward. Xiao, the man, ran out again. His eyes were slightly red. What was going on? Had he really gone mad? This time, he used his divine sense to carefully search every inch of land, but still didn't discover anything. This caused him to pull at his hair in frustration. Pung, he entered the house and slammed the door shut. When Ling Han appeared again, the man didn't show himself again. He probably really thought that he had gone mad and was seriously hallucinating. You don't have to go through so much trouble. You only need to draw upon the source power of heaven and earth, and even celestial kings will find it difficult to discover your existence. And since the source power of heaven and earth placed the words heaven and earth in front, it is naturally a part of heaven and earth. When you spread out the source power, you will become one with heaven and earth. Even if celestial kings don't deliberately sweep over with their divine sense, they can't possibly discover your existence. Fuck. Ling Han bared his teeth. Why didn't you tell me such an important thing earlier? I overestimated your intelligence and thought that you would be able to think of it, Small Tower said. He was despised by Small Tower again. Ling Han couldn't be bothered to bicker with it. He spread out the source power of wood, because wood and earth were the most abundant in this palace. Since he didn't have the source power of earth, he could only use the source power of wood. Wang, a divine sense swept over, directly passing by, and didn't stop at all. This was an ascending origin elite. Ling Han nodded. As Small Tower said, this elite thought of him as a tree in the pill hall, so he naturally wouldn't pay attention. Going by this, should he change his mind and kill Lin Yongchang? This thought only flashed through his mind for a moment. Once he attacked, his aura would be completely exposed. Even if he entered the Black Tower in time, and wasn't seen by that ascending origin tier elite, if he left his aura, it would be even worse than being seen by others. Because his appearance could be changed, but his aura couldn't. At least it was very, very difficult. He would act according to the original plan. Unless the situation was different from what he imagined, then he would go find Lin Yongchang again. Even if he didn't kill him, he would put him in the Black Tower and imprison him until he was satisfied. He fumbled for a long time and finally arrived at the alchemy room. Luck, there's no formation to protect me. Ling Han smiled. True, there was an ascending origin tier elite standing guard. So what defense was needed here? Ling Han pushed open the door and entered, and began to search inside. As expected, he found a shelf, and there were 100 boxes placed on it. In each box, there were 3 alchemical pills that hadn't been spirit refined. And on each box, there was a person's name, and they were all people who had advanced to the 3rd round. Lin Yongchang. Ling Han immediately found the box with Lin Yongchang's name on the first row. After opening it, he took out the red poisonous fruit. There was pitifully little, and there were only a few drops of liquid left. He carefully dripped it on one of the alchemical pills. It wasn't that he didn't want to drip the other 2, but that the poison had already been used up. I'll give you a way out. If you only spirit refined 1 or 2, and coincidentally avoided this one, then you're lucky, Ling Han said. If it wasn't for Lin Yongchang and Yuan Tongguang making a sneak attack first, he wouldn't have done this. But who asked them to be despicable first? Then he was sorry. Chapter 2093. Ling Han silently left the pill hall and returned to the inn as if nothing had happened. He had done what he could, and the rest would be left to the heavens. Another few days passed, and the third round of the competition began. 100 participants once again came to the Alchemy Plaza. Though most people had no hope of getting into the top 3, no one wanted to give up before the results were out. What if? It was still one alchemy room per person, and then alchemy apprentices walked over, each holding a box in their hands, with a name written on it. These boxes were all given to each participant according to the corresponding order. After Lin Yongchang received the box, he turned around and cast a disdainful glance at Ling Han. Daring to steal his limelight, he really didn't know his place. How arrogant. He had clearly obtained the lead through despicable methods, and he actually thought he was really something. Ling Han only smiled faintly and didn't pay any attention to him. Even if Lin Yongchang luckily escaped this time, he would think of a way to kill this guy in the future. Fuck, what kind of person was he? Begin, the 4-star alchemist in charge of hosting said. The 4-star alchemist in charge of hosting said. Because a few 4-star alchemists had suddenly appeared this time, they could sit on equal footing with him in terms of status. Thus, his voice had become much gentler. Everyone was given 12 hours to prepare. Under the acceleration of time by 100 times, it was more than enough to perform spirit refinement thrice. Ling Han closed the door and paid no attention to the outside world, focusing on spirit refinement. Being able to become a 4-star alchemist meant that he had made a leap in alchemy and could definitely perform 5th refinement. However, being able to perform 5th refinement didn't mean that he would succeed every time. Even a 5-star alchemist couldn't guarantee this. Thus, everyone had 3 chances. If you didn't have enough confidence, you could also perform 3rd refinement or 4th refinement. There was no rule that 4-star alchemists had to perform 5th refinement. But if he didn't perform 5th refinement, how could he obtain 1st place? Ling Han took a deep breath, and all the details regarding spirit refinement appeared in his mind again, as well as some of Grandmaster Zicheng's suggestions. This master had never personally taught him the specific things, but he would beat around the bush and guide him to think. Thus, Ling Han did not walk down the same path as Grandmaster Zicheng, and instead developed the ability to think for himself. After almost a day, he began to act. This movement was naturally shockingly fast. 1st refinement, 2nd refinement, 3rd refinement, 4th refinement. Very quickly, he completed the 4th refinement. He had already done this many times, so he was very familiar with it. However, the next step was the most crucial 5th refinement. He activated the 9 heavens flame and began the final spirit refinement. Boom! After a short while, the flames rolled and the pill turned into ashes. Well, the previous 4 spirit enhancements were completely wasted. Fortunately, spirit refinement did not require materials. Otherwise, the losses would be too great. Again, outside, the onlookers were all very attentive, especially Pan Luoling's side. It was simply a sea of people. Due to the pressure, Yuan Tongguang didn't dare to blatantly cheat this time. In other words, the important figures in charge here didn't go down. Thus, this time, Pan Luoling's pill room was spotless and could be seen clearly. The people outside were all watching, so it was impossible to hide the fact that you had performed several spirit refinements. If you still claimed that the 4th refinement was the 5th refinement, then from today onwards, at least the ancient Pill Tower branch here would have no credibility to speak of. Pan Luoling could also be considered famous, receiving even more attention than Ling Han and Lin Yongchang. However, the top-notch prodigies all received a lot of attention. For example, the alchemy rooms of Ling Han, Lin Yongchang, Wu Zishu, and the others were still surrounded by many people. Sigh, what a pity. A 4th refinement celestial medicine. How good would it be if it was given to me? I could sell it for at least 100,000 star stones. A 4th refinement 1-star alchemical pill, how extravagant. It's a pity that it exploded. When it came to Ling Han's first failure, everyone sighed ruefully, and this kind of rue also happened to others, such as Wu Zishu, alchemist Ri Yang, and the others. They had all just advanced to 4-star. Even if they worked hard on spirit refinement these few days, how much progress could they make? The first failure was unavoidable, and the key was whether they could succeed in one of the remaining 2 attempts. And under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Lin Yongchang also opened the box and took out an alchemical pill. Nothing happened at all. His luck was very good, and he didn't get that alchemical pill that had been contaminated with poison. He began spirit refinement. 1, 2, 3, 4. The first 4 went very smoothly, and he could already complete the 5th refinement, so the first 4 refinements were naturally easy. However, when he started the 5th refinement, his speed instantly slowed down, because he hadn't been in this domain for very long. He used the regulations of fire as a furnace, and drew upon the great Tao of heaven and earth, strengthening the quality of the alchemical pill. A faint golden line appeared, and grew around the alchemical pill, from nothing to something, from faint to deep, and deeper and deeper. There were also 4 golden lines on the side, and when the 5 colors were of the same depth, it represented the completion of the 5th refinement. Then, Lin Yongchang would definitely be the champion of this alchemy competition. Just when Lin Yongchang was about to succeed, the alchemical pill actually exploded. Spirit refinement failed. Lin Yongchang couldn't help but reveal a look of vexation. Success had been so close, and he had only been that little bit away. Again, he took out another alchemical pill, but he still stood firmly, without any signs of being poisoned. This was luck. He began spirit refinement again. This luck is a little good, someone murmured in the crowd. However, if one paid a little attention, they would be able to see that although this person was wearing a loose cloak and a bamboo hat on his head, covering himself very tightly, his 2 feet were exposed, and they were clearly 2 black dog legs. I can only attack one more time. As the person spoke, he stretched out a hand slightly from under his cloak. It was clearly a dog's paw, and there was even a pair of pink underwear on the paw. Immortal King Ling Miao's underwear. Just smelling it makes me 100 times more spirited, this person said to himself. Then, he pointed the dog paw at the void in the alchemy room, where Lin Yongchang was. In response, the alchemical pill in Lin Yongchang's hand instantly exploded. Why did he fail again? Lin Yongchang was baffled. This was only the 3rd refinement, and he had even failed the 3rd refinement. How was this possible? How is this possible? Outside, the crowd was also in an uproar. Spirit refinement was the easiest to distinguish. The number of lines of gold on the alchemical pill was the number of refinements it had, and there was no other possibility. Thus, everyone knew that Lin Yongchang had actually failed at the 3rd refinement. A dignified 4-star alchemist actually failed even at the 3rd refinement? This is a little too lousy, isn't it? Now I'm wondering how he had become a 4-star alchemist. Could it be that he had also won by cheating like that woman? Many people directly started to mock him. Who asked Pan Luoling to be an example just now? This caused everyone's trust to fall to rock bottom. That dog laughed slyly. You actually dare to bully our little Han? Grandpa Dog is already merciful enough not to burst your ass. If Ling Han heard this, he would immediately be able to guess his identity. Lin Yongchang was dazed for a while, and then he reached for the last alchemical pill. Chapter 2094. The large hand descended and picked up the last pill in the box. The expression on Lin Yongchang's face instantly changed. He felt a strange itch coming from the center of his palm, causing him to involuntarily let go. The medicinal pill fell back into the box, but the following scene caused him to be greatly shocked. Because what fell down wasn't just pills, there was also a puddle of rotten flesh. Looking up, one could see that half of his right hand was missing. It was a bloody mess, and the remaining half of his palm was still dripping with blood. His hands are melting. Even though he was a genius of the Tao of Alchemy, he was instantly stunned, and didn't know what to do. After a heartbeat he screamed in horror. At this time, his entire right hand had already rotted into slag, and the rot was still spreading up his arm. Audacious thief! With an enraged roar, a figure flew over, exuding a terrifying aura. Pung! He slammed open the door of the alchemy room with a palm strike, and then stretched out a hand to grab at Lin Yongchang. This was an ascending origin tier elite, and he was completely capable of suppressing the poison of the mottled red poisonous fruit. Even if he couldn't neutralize it, he could still control it. But when he stretched out his hand, he actually slipped and fell flat on his face. It was a solid fall, and it was face first. 2 of his front teeth flew out of his mouth. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. It was an inconceivable thing for an ascending origin elite to fall down for no reason. What more when he had lost 2 front teeth? Who would believe this? But he was a mighty ascending origin elite, so who would dare to plot against him? To be so undetectable, what kind of cultivation did he have? Immortal king, but which immortal king would do something so senseless? Ga, the large black dog's smile was incredibly sinister. Just then, he had once again extended his paw, and that ascending origin tier elite had died. Damn Baldy, it's your fault for not making a sound just now and oppressing my family's little Han. Now you're enjoying yourself, aren't you? That ascending origin tier cultivator was also stunned. Being able to cause him to fall prey to this attack unknowingly, it had to be a celestial king. Now that a celestial king had made a move against him, would he still dare to act rashly? To him, this was a warning from the immortal king. My lord. He crawled up and clasped his hands towards the sky. This is the only son of the ancient Pill Pagoda's grandmaster Lin Chenglong. My lord, please have mercy and spare this child's life. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Did an immortal king really make a move? However, there was only silence all around. There was no loud and clear sound that shook the world. That ascending origin tier didn't know whether this mysterious celestial king had agreed or not. But Lin Yongchang's entire arm had already completely rotted by now. If it continued upwards, then it would be his neck and head, and they would all be dead. He didn't dare to hesitate any longer, and hurriedly stretched out his hand towards Lin Yongchang. Bam! Just as he stretched out his hand, he seemed to have lost his balance, and fell face first onto the ground. His entire face was embedded into the hard stone floor. That immortal king attacked again. This time, everyone no longer had any doubts, and they were all excited to the point that their scalps went numb. To most people, the celestial king was a high and mighty existence, and it was impossible for them to even see him, let alone see the celestial king in action. Though they still hadn't reached the level of a celestial king, they had already reached the level of a celestial king. Thus, they didn't even need to show themselves to be able to toy with an ascending origin tier elite, displaying the might of a celestial king. My lord, please spare my life. Lin Yongchang naturally understood. No wonder he had failed the previous 3 refinements. As it turned out, there was a celestial king secretly making a move. There was also deep resentment in his heart. A high and mighty celestial king actually made a move against a minor character like him. This was too humiliating. But he didn't dare to rebuke him at all, and could only put on the most humble posture. Celestial king. That was the king of the celestial realm, high and mighty, and immortal through myriad tribulations. Little brat, who do you think you are, actually daring to scheme against my little Han? If I let you live, then what face would Grandpa Dog have? A voice rang out by Lin Yongchang's ear, and only he could hear it. What? The expression on Lin Yongchang's face was incredibly fascinating. He had never imagined that there would actually be a celestial king following behind Ling Han. More importantly, this celestial king was extremely protective, and actually directly made a move against him. A celestial king bullying a dividing soul tier junior. Aren't you embarrassed? Spare me, spare me. He knelt and begged for mercy. The corrosion had already reached his neck, splitting his head into 2. For celestials, this was not fatal as long as their consciousness was not destroyed. But that voice did not ring out again. No. Lin Yongchang released a tragic cry. At this moment he was definitely extremely regretful. There was not the slightest bit of benefit in participating in this competition. Even if he won first place, he would only be showing off for a while. But now, for the sake of showing off, he actually lost his life. This price was really too high. After this scream, Lin Yongchang's head was also completely corroded by the poison, turning into a puddle of blood. That ascending origin tier elite crawled up shakily. There was still a clear face-shaped dent on the ground, He looked at Lin Yongchang, who had already turned into a puddle of blood, his mind in a moment of confusion. Something big had happened. The heir of the ancient Pill Tower, the son of a 5-star grandmaster, had died, and had died right in front of him, leaving him no chance to even rescue him. Thankfully, it was a celestial king that had made a move, so he should be fine, right? How could an ascending origin tier stop a celestial king? Even if he used his but to think, it was impossible. And there was dead silence in the surroundings. A 4-star grandmaster had died just like that. This was even more shocking than the death of Tian Qingyue and other monarch tiers. After all, what cultivators obtained was cultivation, and a dividing soul was only a dividing soul. But a 4-star grandmaster was an existence equivalent to an ascending origin tier elite in status. An ascending origin tier elite had died. Wouldn't you say it was shocking? Moreover, Lin Yongchang was the only son of a 5-star grandmaster. This was definitely poking a hole in the sky. The problem was, if a celestial king made a move, how could he leave behind any clues? After that, there would not even be anyone to avenge him. Could it be that he wanted to slaughter all the celestial kings? Who had this ability? However, the people in the alchemy chamber were completely unaware of what had happened outside, still focused on spirit refinement. 2 hours later, someone was the first to walk out. He was instantly given a fright. Why was the atmosphere outside so heavy? Something big had happened? Very soon he exclaimed in shock. What, a celestial king had arrived, and made a move against Lin Yongchang, poisoning him to death. Why did this sound so unreliable? A celestial king needed to poison a dividing soul tier, to kill a dividing soul tier? Who were you trying to fool? People came out one after another. They were all first given a fright, then refused to believe that a celestial king had made a move. This was too ridiculous. Under such great shock, even Wu Zixu, Ling Han, and the others left the alchemy chamber one after another, and not many people paid them any attention. But since the competition had not ended, they naturally had to continue. When everyone had left the alchemy chamber, they began to evaluate the number of times of spirit refinement and the quality. In total, there were only 2 people who had reached the 5th refinement, Ling Han and Wu Zixu. Alchemist Ri Yang and Xie Yuezhang had both failed the 5th refinement twice, and they only managed the 4th refinement on their 3rd attempt. They did not dare to continue, lest they did not obtain a single point in the 3rd round. If that happened, they would directly fall out of the rankings. Pan Luoling was also at the 4th refinement, so there was no way she could cheat under the watchful eyes of the crowd. However, the result of the 4th refinement was not considered low either. Thus, the first place would be decided between Ling Han and Wu Zixu. Chapter 2096. 2 ascending origin tier elites clashed, and there were not many people who could watch the battle from the sidelines. They all retreated. Xiaogu was only defending passively. Aside from facing cultivators of another system, he would not show any killing intent towards anyone else. But his battle prowess was really not weak. No matter how Yu Wenxin attacked, it was useless. He was like a tall mountain that could not be toppled. Just as the battle was raging, another 2 terrifying auras appeared. In the sky, a man and a woman appeared. Though they appeared together, they were clearly not in the same group. There was enough distance between the 2 of them to ensure that the other party would have enough time to react, even if they suddenly attacked. Shi Heng of the Golden Crow sect, Aiyu of the Cloudwave Valley. The man and woman respectively introduced themselves, both of them very proud. They were both ascending origin tier elites. Even in the Western Celestial Realm, ascending origin tier elites could still be called top-tier elites. Above them were only celestial kings. But how many celestial kings could there be? Brother Shi Fairy AI. Fei Chong clasped his hands in greeting. He immediately knew the origins of these 2 people. They had come for Yu Huaqing and Zhu Huiyin respectively. The holy daughter of my sect was killed, and I have come under orders to apprehend the culprit, Aiyu said. Aiyu said as her divine sense spread out, enveloping the entire 100 Dragons city. One of them is Ji Wuming, and he's holding a small bow in his hand. The other is Ling Han, and he's 20 meters tall and as large as a rock. Was there no end to this? A muscle twitched in Ling Han's mouth. In the future, when everyone mentioned him, would they first say that he was as big as a rock? Shi Heng did not speak. He had encountered Aiyu on the way, and the two of them had the same goal, which was to apprehend Ji Wuming and Ling Han. Since Aiyu had already spoken, he simply did not speak. In any case, those below were only minor characters in the dividing soul tier, or severing mundane tier. He could not even be bothered to look them in the eye. Fei Chong pointed at Ling Han. That's him. This brat was really audacious. After killing Tian Qingyue and the others, he actually did not hurry to flee, and still came to participate in the alchemy competition. What was more ridiculous was that this brat actually obtained first place. Aiyu looked at Ling Han coldly and asked, "Where is Ji Wuming? I'm not his nanny. How would I know where he is?" Ling Han spread his hands. The other party was aggressive and hostile. No matter how humble he was, it was useless. Then why did he swallow his pride furthermore? One had to be responsible for one's own life and death after entering the secret realm. Otherwise, what was the point of coming out? You really are a lawless beast. You dare speak to me like that? Aiyu's expression grew cold and killing intent appeared. Stop talking nonsense. Capture him, Shi Heng said impatiently. Aiyu glanced at him in displeasure, but did not challenge him to a battle. She was aware of her own limitations. Ling Han was at the consummate level of the ascending origin tier, while she was only at the level of the great perfection tier. The difference of this minor level was incredibly vast in terms of battle prowess. She really couldn't be bothered to say anything to a nobody. She immediately stretched out her hand and grabbed at Ling Han. Before her hand could grab it, another hand appeared out of thin air. It was as huge as a mountain and slapped heavily at her. This large hand was unblockable, and it slapped back at Aiyu's attack as well. A terrifying aura swept out, and a woman walked over in the air from afar. She was clearly unhurried, but with a single step, she traversed thousands of mountains and rivers. Regulations of space, everyone exclaimed in shock, but then they involuntarily clasped their heads with an even more shocked expression. Celestial King. To be able to send an ascending origin tier flying so easily with a single strike, there was no one else in this world apart from Celestial Kings. Furthermore, Celestial Kings had a special appearance. There was a four-colored light around this woman, as if there were four heavenly daos, which meant that she was a fourth heaven Celestial King. Ugly old woman, you're here. Hunyo humphed. You're really slow. You made Nyo wait for a long time. The newcomer was Lu Herong. She had heard about the matter of Ling Han and Ji Wuming slaughtering Tian Qingyue and the others, so she immediately rushed over. She had not taken much time to arrive, but the news had already reached her ears a day ago. Greetings, senior. Ling Han clasped his hands in salute. Lu Herong couldn't help but shake her head. Ling Han really knew how to cause trouble, actually offending a few great sects in one go. Though these great sects were only at the 8th heaven, and none could compare to the Rock Palace. The current Rock Palace was in a storm, and no matter what, they would not be willing to make such a few more powerful enemies. Greetings, milady. Instantly everyone bowed. Milady. Shi Heng withdrew his arrogant attitude and saluted Lu Herong. This man killed the holy son of our sect. May I know what relationship milady has with him? This meant that if there was no close relationship, then it was best for milady not to interfere. Why did Shi Heng dare to have such an attitude? That was because Lu Herong was only a 4th heaven celestial king, and the Golden Crow sect was an 8th heaven force. There were a total of 7 celestial kings in the sect, and among them, 3 were above the 4th heaven, so there was naturally no need to be too afraid. Lu Herong naturally wanted nothing more than to get rid of Ling Han, this troublemaker. But firstly, Hunyo was very attached to him, and secondly, this person was that person's successor, and had a considerable affinity with the Rock Palace. So how could she possibly turn a blind eye to him? She calmly said, "What relationship does this lord have with him? Do you have the right to question this lord? Since this lord has already made a move, why don't you retreat quickly?" Originally, there was no need for celestial kings to be so patient. But who asked the Rock Palace to already have a powerful enemy? And it was really unsuitable for them to have another powerful enemy? Shi Heng's eyes involuntarily lit up. Lu Herong did not directly send him flying, and instead patiently spoke to him, which meant that she definitely had a great fear of the Golden Crow sect. Otherwise, would a mighty celestial king need to be so patient? He clasped his hands again, and said, "Milady, the holy son of our sect is astonishingly talented in martial art." Originally, his future was boundless, and he was greatly favored by Lord Sect Leader. Now he has been killed by others, and he cannot rest in peace. Lord Sect Leader also cannot tolerate this kind of injustice. Injustice! It was clearly Tian Qingyue and the others who had joined forces to kill Ling Han and Ji Wuming. No, it was they who had joined forces with everyone who had entered the Divine Dragon Mountain at that time to isolate and encircle Ling Han and Ji Wuming. They had not thought that there would still be the existence of the black humanoid, causing their cleverness to backfire. When they counterattacked, almost their entire army was annihilated. How could this be called unfair? It was only because Ling Han and Ji Wuming were really too strong, causing them to lift a rock and smash it on their own feet. Lu Herong did not know what was going on, but firstly, she could not possibly retreat, and secondly, she could not possibly accept the threat of an ascending origin tier elite. Her pretty face suddenly became cold, and she sinisterly said, "Why do you have so much nonsense to say? Please reconsider, milady." Shi Heng clasped his hands all the way to the ground, his posture extremely humble, so that Lu Herong could not act up. "My Cloud Wave Valley also has the same attitude." Aiyu had already flown back. Her hair was a little messy, and there was blood at the corner of her lips, but she had not suffered any serious injuries. This was not because she was powerful, but rather because Lu Herong had shown mercy. Lu Herong's killing intent surged. These two ascending origin tiers actually dared to threaten her? Did they really think that she did not dare to kill them? Though the Rock Palace was presently in the midst of an extremely great crisis, there was still a ninth heaven celestial king standing guard. Even if she was severely injured, she could still kill an eighth heaven celestial king. Hehe, fellow cultivator, it is best that you reconsider before you act. There was a burst of hearty laughter, and a man suddenly appeared. Shockingly, there was a four-colored light circling around him. Another celestial king. Chapter 2097. Four-colored radiance flickered, as if there were four heavenly Tao protecting it. It was extremely powerful. It was another celestial king. Furthermore, it was a level 4 celestial king. Lu Herong had a solemn look on her face. Even though she came from a major power in the ninth heavens, she didn't dare to underestimate the other party. Because for those who could step into the immortal king realm, which one of them wasn't a peerless genius? This was especially so for the level 4 immortal kings, who knew how much tempering they had gone through. Their combat prowess was definitely like a heavenly sword that could slash through anything. "How should I address you?" Lu Herong walked towards the immortal king. This immortal king had a faint smile on his face. "Tuayuo sect Quan Fong." Lu Herong nodded. "Rock Palace Lu Herong. So it's the famous Sea Heavenly King." Immortal King Quan Fong chuckled and cupped his hands. "I've long heard of Sea Heavenly King's great name. Today I finally get to meet you. Nice to meet you. You're too polite." Lu Herong also smiled. The other party was an immortal king, and couldn't be underestimated. The Rock Palace only accepts female disciples. This child should have nothing to do with your sect. Immortal Emperor Quan Fong then changed the topic to Ling Han. "Therefore, I hope Sea Heavenly King will give me some face and hand this man over to me." LV Herong shook her head. "I'm afraid I can't comply. Sea Heavenly King, you're making things difficult for me." Quan Fong Immortal King sighed, and revealed a troubled expression. Hehe. Lu Herong smiled. She was indeed fearful of the other party's strength, and she didn't want to make another powerful enemy for the Rock Palace. However, if they really had to fight, she wouldn't back down at all. "Then we'll have to see who's the real deal," Immortal King Quan Fong said. "I'd like to learn from you," Lu Herong said proudly. She definitely did not dare to underestimate the other party, but she was filled with confidence in her own strength. One was from a force from the 8th heaven, and the other was from the 9th heaven. Don't tell me there was only a difference of a single heaven. But it had long been said that there were 9 heavens of Celestial King, and every step was like ascending to the heavens. So how could she be inferior? The Celestial King tier-level sects of the 9th heaven had passed down an astonishing number of cultivation techniques. This was an existence that stood at the peak of the celestial realm, and who knew how many good things they had. Therefore, she was confident that she could win in a battle of the same level. Hehe, allow me to join in. With a chuckle, another man walked through the air. He was clearly not very tall, but even the heavens seemed to be prostrating themselves beneath his feet. Auspicious light shone brightly, and 4-colored light surrounded him. Another 4th heaven immortal king. Seeing that Lu Herong was looking at him, the Celestial King revealed a warm smile. Cloudwave Valley Yuanfang. Ong, a beast roared, and a fiery cloud appeared on the horizon. Then, this fiery cloud flew over at an astonishing speed. Then the cloud dispersed, revealing a tall and sturdy man. His upper body was bare, and there was a tattoo of a wolf on his chest. It was indescribably ferocious. This was not a tattoo, but something he was born with. There was a faint light of the great Tao flowing about, emitting an oppressive pressure. Golden Crow Sect Green Wolf, said the man. His voice rumbled like thunder, and many people on the ground immediately fainted. The might of a celestial king could shake heaven and earth, and with a single thought, he could shake down the stars from the 9th heaven. Lu Hairong's eyes involuntarily narrowed slightly, and finally revealed a look of wariness. Becoming a celestial king was too difficult, but to become a celestial king, which one wasn't a supreme genius? Against prodigies among prodigies, she had absolute confidence that she could win one-on-one. If it was 1-on-2, she was also confident that she wouldn't lose. But if it was 1-on-3, it was hard to say. Most importantly, Hunyo was still here. She was the future palace mistress of the Rock Palace, and shouldered the future of everyone in the Rock Palace. So there definitely couldn't be the slightest loss. This filled her with apprehension, and she didn't dare to go all out in battle. Most importantly, if Hunyo was captured, then the Four Seas Palace would definitely be willing to pay an astonishing price in exchange. And this kind of price might be something even an 8th heaven celestial king wouldn't be able to refuse. For example, celestial medicine of an epoch, or source power of heaven and earth. As long as one didn't reach the 9th heaven, source power of heaven and earth would also be of use to celestial kings. We only want this brat, Yuan Fang celestial king said, pointing at Ling Han. If the Four Seas heavenly king doesn't allow it, then we can only meet on the battlefield. However, the safety of these little girls can't be guaranteed. The 3 celestial kings spoke one after another. At their level, there was no need to waste words at all. They could exchange opinions with a single look, and act as one. The man definitely couldn't be a disciple of the Rock Palace, but the woman could be. Though she didn't know which one, or all of them. In any case, she could be used as a threat. Lu Hairong's expression instantly changed. This was her weakness. In a battle between celestial kings, even if she stored Hunyo in her spatial god tool, it wouldn't be safe. It was very possible that she would shatter in the battle, and then be easily killed by the aftermath of celestial king-level power. 3 4th heaven celestial kings were completely qualified to threaten her. At this time, everyone else had become a foil, and the meaning of their existence was to be spectators. Even Fei Chong the host didn't dare to say a word. In front of celestial kings, no matter how strong an ascending origin tier was, they were still trash. Four Seas Heavenly King, what do you think? Azure Wolf Celestial King asked loudly, each word transforming into a Tao seal. He was too powerful, and his words were like the law, able to suppress the world. Lu Herong showed an expression of struggle. For the dignity of the Rock Palace, she should have responded incredibly forcefully, fought a great battle, and then left after severely wounding 1 or 2 celestial kings. But now she was considering compromising. No matter how important Ling Han was, he couldn't possibly surpass Hunyo. Ugly old woman, beat them up for Nyo, beat them up. Though Hunyo's actions were unreliable, her judgment was extremely brilliant. She immediately saw through Lu Hairong's struggle, and immediately went berserk. Fuck, how could Nyo's Ling Han be harmed? Four Seas Heavenly King, think carefully. Quan Feng's Celestial King's eyes were fixed on Hunyeo, his eyes flickering slightly. Though they were far away, Quan Feng's Celestial King had still heard some things about the Rock Palace. After all, it was a force of the ninth heaven, and even in the Western Celestial Realm, there were only about a dozen such forces. The Rock Palace had flourished for a time, and had two ninth heaven Celestial Kings overseeing it. It was almost as domineering as the number one force in the Celestial Realm, but after the former Palace Master was ambushed and killed, the Rock Palace declined from its peak. Now, it was surrounded by the Four Seas Palace, struggling bitterly on the edge of survival. Being able to make Lu Herong so wary, and also being able to call a fourth heaven Celestial King, ugly old woman. Hunyeo's identity was as clear as day. The next Palace Master of the Rock Palace. If he captured Hunyeo and handed her over to the Four Seas Palace, what kind of reward would he receive? This was a force of the ninth heaven that had existed for who knew how many epochs, and their foundation was astonishingly deep. Once this thought appeared, his heart immediately became active, and it couldn't be stopped. If he had to kill Lu Herong, he naturally didn't have the slightest confidence, but if it was just snatching two dividing soul tier juniors, he was filled with confidence. If he could think of it, how could Azure Wolf Celestial King and Yuan Fong Celestial King not think of it? They also had their eyes on Hunyeo, their eyes burning with desire. Seeing this, Lu Herong made a prompt decision and said, "All right, I can hand this boy over to you." She definitely couldn't allow anything to happen to Hunyeo. "Ugly old woman, what nonsense are you saying?" Hunyeo shouted in anger. Quan Feng Celestial King and the other two nodded at one another. For the time being, it was best not to provoke Lu Herong. After all, she was also a fourth heaven Celestial King, and if she fought with her life on the line, it was very possible that one or two of them would die with her. They would first ask for Ling Han, and then notify the fifth heaven, sixth heaven, or even stronger Celestial Kings of their sect. Then, they would naturally be able to capture Lu Herong and Hunyeo together. Chapter 2098. This girl is too unreliable. The large black dog muttered in the distance. He's so stupid and so hesitant. Just how did he become a Celestial King? As expected, he's been living like a dog all these years. Tui tui tui. Which idiot came up with this phrase? He deserves to die. It suddenly sniffed and revealed a strange expression. Ling Miao, that fierce woman has caught up with us. Hee just in time. She can help Lord Dog explain these little demons. If someone heard him refer to the four Celestial Kings as little girls and imps, they would probably either be scared to death or laugh themselves to death. Was this large black dog crazy? Or was his strength so powerful that it defied the natural order? The large black dog stretched out a paw and waved it in the air. A circular ring of light appeared, which was filled with patterns. It looked like a picture but also like a character. It was incredibly complicated. However, the strange thing was that when the large black dog's paw reached into the ring, the part that he had pierced through actually disappeared into thin air. This was the law of space. I really can't bear to part with it. It wasn't easy to steal it. The large black dog took out a pair of underwear, a look of pity on his face, and said, "However, if I don't return it to that fierce woman, she'll probably chase after me forever." Sigh. Just smelling it makes me feel 100 times more energetic. The large black dog held the underwear and took a sniff. He was extremely vulgar, and there was an intoxicated expression on his face. However, he still reached out with his paw and tossed the underwear into the ring, and it immediately disappeared. There's going to be a good show. The large black dog's regret disappeared, and he became excited. In the sky, Immortal King Quan Feng made his move and grabbed at Ling Han. Since LV Herong had already spoken, then the words of the Immortal King were naturally as heavy as the sky. There was no possibility of her going back on her word. Ling Han couldn't move at all. Under the lock of the Immortal King's divine sense, he couldn't even think. It was as if the law of time had been imposed on him. Everything had become ridiculously slow. Xiao. A celestial light streaked past, and Xiaogu suddenly retreated, standing in front of Ling Han. The Celestial King bone in his body shone, and a powerful celestial king aura seeped out. What? Yuan Xin was so shocked that her eyeballs almost popped out. The aura of an immortal king. How is this possible? Is he fighting an immortal king? Was there such a kind of celestial king in this world? He didn't retaliate no matter how he attacked. His temper was simply inhumanly good. However, the aura of an immortal king wouldn't lie. Putting everything else aside, if he were to directly face this aura right now, his legs would definitely go soft, and he wouldn't even have the strength to move. Boom! This attack from Quan Feng's celestial king was instantly blocked, but Xiaogu's body also shattered with a loud boom. This was not his main body, so its defensive ability was limited. In front of a celestial king, it was completely unable to withstand a single blow. A snow-white bone floated in the sky. There were ancient runes on it, emanating an aura of ancientness. At the same time, a powerful immortal king aura radiated out as well, as though a supreme existence had just descended. Quan Feng, Yuan Feng Qinglang, as well as Lu Herong, the four great celestial kings all showed expressions of shock. That was because none of them had discovered that Xiaogu was not a person at all, but merely a bone. It was just a bone, yet it was able to withstand the attack of a celestial king. Moreover, it was a celestial king of the fourth heaven. This was simply unbelievable. Celestial tool. The four great celestial kings all stared at Xiaogu. No, this should be the remains of a celestial king, and it has reached a supreme height in terms of body technique, which is why it is comparable to celestial metal. Otherwise, it would have been corroded by the power of time, and the body of a celestial king would also slowly lose its liveliness, and it would be impossible for it to block the attack of another celestial king. This celestial king should have reached an astonishing height when he was alive. Seventh heaven. I'm afraid it's not just that. It has to start from the eighth heaven. The four great celestial kings were all incredibly shocked. When a person died, their Tao would be extinguished. This was a supreme principle that would never change, and even celestial kings were no exception. But now, this celestial king's bone clearly had its own consciousness, and this had subverted this iron law. Celestial tool. No, this should be. Xiaogu spoke up, and repeated the words that the four great celestial kings had just said without missing a single word. The four great celestial kings. Everyone below. A white bone was speaking vividly, and it was words that had been spoken by someone else. What kind of bizarre scene was this? Ling Han was speechless. This guy had already become a bone now, and he actually still had the mood to repeat words. As Xiaogu repeated the words, his body reappeared. As his flesh and blood intertwined, his body reappeared, and it was still in the exact same shape as Ling Han. He was definitely here to screw over Ling Han. This aura. In the distance, the large black dog scratched his ears and cheeks. If Grandpa Dog had smelled it, it would be impossible for him to forget it. But Grandpa Dog has no impression of it at all. Add to that the mark of time on this celestial bone, and it has existed for at least several epochs. Furthermore, there are slivers of a dark aura on the bone, and it is not from those evil beings, but rather left behind from battles with those beings. Only by killing too many beings of darkness would it be possible to leave behind such a deep aura. Could it be that it was in existence even earlier than Grandpa Dog? That's right. The tide of darkness did not only exist in Grandpa Dog's era, but can be traced back to even further ancient times. Perhaps this guy had fallen after a great battle with the beings of darkness at that time. When Xiaogu finished repeating the words, his body had also completely reassembled, and then looked at the four great celestial kings with a dazed and adorable gaze. Fellow Taoist, since you have already transformed into the Tao, what obsession can you not let go of? Yuan Feng's celestial king asked. He believed that this celestial king bone could defy the heavens, because the obsession it had when it was alive was too deep. Fellow Taoist, since you have already transformed into the Tao, Xiaogu repeated the words tirelessly. Yuan Feng's celestial king's expression instantly darkened. He was still alive and well, so why had he suddenly transformed into the Tao? This caused Quan Feng and Qing Lang to not dare to speak rashly, because Xiaogu did not think of himself as a celestial king at all. and directly returned whatever words he heard. The destructive power of this was actually quite great. No matter how powerful it was in the past, it is only a bone now, and its glory is no more. Qing Lang said to the two great celestial kings. If we join forces, would we still be unable to suppress a celestial tool? It was more appropriate to call a celestial king bone a celestial tool. All right, we'll join forces to suppress it. Quan Feng Celestial King and Yuan Feng Celestial King both nodded. But just at this moment, a dragon's roar traveled over from the distance. Boom! Countless silhouettes of heavenly dragons streaked across the sky. 100 dragons danced in unison, their might soaring to the heavens. Pa 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 pa. The four great celestial kings actually fell from the sky simultaneously. What? Everyone's eyeballs bulged out. What kind of situation was this? It was just a dragon's roar. And the four great celestial kings actually could not even stand steadily. What kind of figure was this newcomer? They had not even finished this thought when they saw that there was already another person in the sky above the plaza. A beauty, a great beauty of the highest level. She was dressed in a green robe, and her skin was like white jade. She had a delicate nose and almond-shaped eyes. Her jet-black hair hung down like a waterfall, and there was actually a pair of dragon horns growing out of the sides of her ears, which were like dark blue jade. It was such an exquisite beauty, yet she exuded a great aura that could suppress the 9 heavens and 10 earths. She indeed had this kind of strength, because there was an 8-colored light entwining behind her. 8th heaven celestial king heavens, and 8th heaven celestial king. This practically stood at the pinnacle of the celestial realm, and was truly a supreme existence. Reading on one's phone. Chapter 2100. LV Herong took Ling Han and the others and soared into the sky, with an 8th heaven celestial king keeping watch. Everything naturally went smoothly. After rushing for 3 days, LV Herong finally stopped. She couldn't stop, and Hunyao insisted on eating. When a glutton's appetite was aroused, it was completely unstoppable. They went to find a place to eat, and LV Herong didn't make a sound, because she felt a bit sorry for Ling Han. When they encountered the ambush of the Four Seas Palace, it was Ling Han who protected Hunyao, or she wouldn't have been here. But when the 3 great celestial kings forced her to abdicate, she chose to give up on Ling Han. Though the danger was resolved now, she was still a bit embarrassed. Are we going to Dark Spirit Valley first, or to find treasures? Hunyao asked as she ate, appearing to be in high spirits. We're going next, Xiaogu repeated as it ate. Don't snatch Nyo's things. Hunyao was anxious. This damn Xiaogu actually took her favorite meat to eat, and she hurriedly reached out to protect her food. Don't snatch Nyo's things. Xiaogu also went to protect its food. Ling Han couldn't help but laugh and said, let's go to Dark Spirit Valley first. They had all reached the peak stage of Yang Soul Tier, and if they didn't break through to Yin Soul Tier, every day was a waste of time. Okay, Hunyao said, clapping her hands. LV Hairong's expression was a bit sour. She was a mighty celestial king, but these people didn't even have the intention to ask her. However, firstly, Hunyao was stubborn, and secondly, she was also curious about Xiaogu's background, so her attention was always on Xiaogu. The Empress took out a map, and after looking for a while, she pointed at a point on the map, and said, the nearest Dark Spirit Valley is in the Black Screen Forest. If we hurry on our own, it will take about half a month, but if Senior Lu escorts, 2 to 4 hours should be enough, Ling Han said with a smile. Ugly, take us there after eating, Hunyao immediately said, still angry. This old witch actually wanted to sacrifice Ling Han. Lu Herong could only nod in agreement. She, a 4th heaven celestial king, really didn't have any temper in front of Hunyao. Even though LV Herong didn't display any domineering aura, an immortal king was still an immortal king. Even the slightest trace of her aura was incomparably terrifying. Thus, even though there were quite a few beautiful women at their table, no one dared to approach her. The meal went smoothly, which was an incredible thing for Ling Han, because most of the time, they would run into trouble when eating in the restaurant. LV Herong waved her jade-like hand, and brought them on their way again. The speed of the immortal king was too fast. In just 2 hours they arrived at the Black Forest. "The rest is up to you," LV Herong said. "Come here after you break through. I'll wait here." As soon as she finished speaking, her figure flashed and vanished. "They really came and went in a hurry. Let's go as well." Hunyo took the lead and left energetically. Ling Han smiled and held the Empress's hand as they walked. Bewitching Maiden Ro followed behind like a little resentful wife, and Xiao Gu was silly like a dumb goose. The Black Forest had always been very lively. This place was rich in a kind of herb called numb cloud mushroom. Though it wasn't celestial medicine, it was an indispensable supplementary ingredient in refining many celestial pills. And it could only grow here. Thus, there were people gathering herbs here all year round. In fact, because of the needs of the herb gatherers, a small town was slowly built in the forest to provide shelter for the herb gatherers to rest and shelter them from the wind and rain. About a day later, the few of them arrived at this small town. There was no protection fee to enter the town, but everything in the town was ridiculously expensive, including accommodation. However, if you chose to stay, then the store would guarantee your safety, but if you stayed outside the store and hid in a spatial god tool, then when you left the spatial god tool, there might be a sword stabbing towards you. Ling Han and the others only walked around the town once before leaving. They weren't here to gather the numb cloud mushroom, but to enter the depths of the Black Forest, where the Valley of Dark Spirits was. Thus this forest was even more lively. There would always be young soul elites coming here to break through in the Valley of Dark Spirits. Another 3 days later, Ling Han and the others finally arrived at the entrance of the Valley of Dark Spirits. Logically speaking, there were 3 great beauties in Ling Han's group, and they should attract some wild bees and butterflies. But how could those that came here to gather herbs be elites? Thus, Dividing Soul Tier was definitely a great elite here, and no one dared to seek death. Entering the Valley of Dark Spirits was different. They were all here to break through to the Dark Soul Tier, and everyone's tier was the same. So it was naturally unavoidable that there would be some who wandered around. After Ling Han killed quite a few people in succession, finally no one dared to have any improper thoughts. They walked for a few more days, and a deep pool appeared in front of them. The pool was dark green, and so deep that the bottom could not be seen. This was called the Jade Pool, and was incredibly cold. It was a place of extreme Een, and in this pool, there would be something known as Een Soul Jade. This was the same as Yang Soul Stone, and could transform into a spiritual body after fusing with one's divine sense. But how could one obtain Een Soul Jade from the Jade Pool? Obviously, it was impossible to dive down. It was said that even ascending origin tier elites would be frozen to death, and only a celestial king would be able to do that. However, how could a mere young soul breakthrough be able to invite a celestial king to make a move? Of course, it was impossible that this was the only way. Young soul tier cultivators could also obtain Een Soul Jade, but that required the cultivator to communicate with it using their divine sense. If they succeeded, the Een Soul Jade would automatically fly out of the water. Then, could it be drawn out and handed over to someone else? No. Once it landed in the hands of a second person, the Een Soul Jade would automatically shatter. Thus, from this aspect, it was useless even if they could invite a celestial king to make a move. At the edge of the Jade Pool, there were a great many people currently sitting cross-legged, concentrating their attention on communicating with the Een Soul Jade in the pool. There were indeed many people. Some were very far back, and some were very close to the front. There was nothing that could be done. The coldness of the water in the pool soared skywards, and there was a powerful water regulations contained within. Even young soul monarchs could not possibly reach the edge of the pool, and would have long since frozen into a lump. It was said that the closer one was to the pool, the higher the quality of the Een Soul Jade obtained would be. Come. Ling Han and the others all walked forwards, while Xiao Gu began to turn around idly, trying hard to find a new target to imitate. Among the 4 of them, the weakest was still an Emperor tier, and could be ranked in the top ranks even among Emperor tiers. Thus, they naturally surpassed everyone else, and arrived at the position at the very front. After all, how could there be so many monarchs and Emperor tiers in this world? In fact, even king tiers were very rare. Unless there was some martial art festival, or the opening of a mystery realm, that occurred once every 100 million years. Only then would there be a scene where prodigies would gather, and king tiers would be as numerous as dogs. These 4 people are so powerful. They've already reached the very front. This natural talent TSK, they're all king tiers, right? This is really enviable. King tiers could crush all those of the same cultivation level, and were high and mighty, so they naturally made people envious. It's about time they reached the limit. Everyone stared at Ling Han and the others, and came to a conclusion. It was about time they reached the limit of king tiers. But the 4 of them did not have the slightest intention of stopping. Heavens, why are they still walking forwards? Could it be that they are not king tiers but emperor tiers? Chapter 2101. Emperor. Everyone's faces were filled with shock. Even those who were focused on activating the Een Spirit Jade stopped what they were doing. The Een Soul Jade could be activated later, but the Emperor couldn't be activated every day. Emperors are invincible across a small realm. They can dominate even in the Een Spirit realm. Heavens, even if I break through, I'm still no match for them. Sigh, how can there be such a huge gap between people? Many people were unconvinced. Everyone had to cultivate, so why was there such a huge gap between their battle prowess? Don't be so narrow-minded. You must have put in a lot of effort to be able to reach this step. It's not something that can be summed up with just the word talent. Someone was still very objective and spoke pertinent words. Many people nodded in agreement. The path of martial art was difficult. If one wanted to become an emperor, one could not simply attribute it to talent. You guys, they still haven't stopped. Someone cried out in alarm, pointing at Ling Han's group of 4. This? I've heard that Tian He once reached 300 feet in front of the pond. Tian He isn't an ordinary monarch. Instead, he's ranked in the top 3 even amongst monarchs. It's impossible for them to compare with Tian He. Of course, many people began to make sarcastic remarks. Most people could not bear to see others doing better than themselves. However, Ling Han's group of 4 was already getting closer and closer to the pool, giving these people a solid slap in the face. He's about to catch up with Tian He. Heavens, there are actually 4 of such existences. Unbelievable. Ling Han and the others took a few more steps. Bewitching Maiden Row was the first to reach the limit, and had no choice but to stop. Even so, she had reached a height of 280 feet, which was 6 feet higher than Tian He's. This shocked the people nearby, and all of them had their mouths wide open. In their hearts, Tian He was a top genius, and it was absolutely impossible for anyone to surpass him. But now, he had been surpassed by 4 people all of a sudden. Naturally, it caused all of them to be shocked to the point that their scalps went numb. But Ling Han, the Empress, and Hunyo were still walking forward, and continued to break the limits of everyone's endurance. When they reached the distance of 150 meters, the Empress and Hunyo's speed also began to slow down. At this point, even they felt the pressure, and the flow of blood in their bodies was clearly sluggish. If the blood stopped flowing, it meant that the water elemental rules had destroyed the body, and he would be dead. The 2 girls activated the power of their bloodlines, and continued forward. 14 zhang, 11 zhang, 9 zhang, 7 zhang, 5 zhang. They finally came to a complete stop. If they took another step forward, their bodies would freeze, and that would be seeking their own deaths. This made the 2 women feel a little regretful, but the others were stunned. 5 zhang emperor, and a peak-level emperor at that. I heard from Tian He that only emperor realm experts have the qualifications to go within 30 meters. Whereas 15 meters is the limit of all Emperor Realm experts. But that fellow has already entered the 10-meter range. Everyone was dumbfounded as they watched Ling Han continue to walk forward in a daze. Oh my god! Is this guy going to walk to the edge of the pond in one breath? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. That would really be nature-defying. That's right, I also don't believe there is such a freak. 30 meters. Ling Han finally stopped, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. This guy was not nature-defying after all. Is this the limit? Ling Han thought. His physique and the power of regulations that he had grasped could only allow him to walk this far. At this moment, aside from the blood still circulating in his heart, his whole body was completely frozen. If he took another step forward, he would be seeking his own death. Water and fire mutually restrained each other. So could he use the nine heavens flame? Ling Han thought for a moment, and immediately shook his head. The mutual restraint of water and fire was also relative. For example, a huge wave could extinguish a great fire. But what about a cup of water? Relative to this pond, the nine heavens flame was a cup of fire, and could not play its intended role. Who knew? It might instead anger this pond, and bring great trouble to them. If he could use his divine sense to activate the Yin Soul Jade at the bottom of the pond, then why couldn't he be angered? There was no helping it. The nine heavens flame was still too weak now. Then what about the Xianing source water? With a thought from Ling Han, the Xianing source water was immediately activated and began to circulate in his body. The effects were immediate. The blood in his body that had already stopped circulating began to circulate again, and his frozen body also gradually warmed up, allowing him to raise his foot and take another step forward. Heavens! Seeing this scene, everyone clutched their heads and exclaimed in surprise. What had they just witnessed? This was a miracle. Ling Han's footsteps did not stop. The further he walked, the warmer his body became. With the help of the Xianing source water, it was as if he had melded into the pond. Thus, no matter how terrifying the coldness that emanated from this pond was, it was unable to harm him. Simply put, he had already assimilated with the water regulations here. 20 feet, 10 feet. Ling Han was still walking forward, and finally stopped at the edge of the pond. A little more, and he would be in that eerie cold water. This was unprecedented. This was a feat that only a celestial king could accomplish. And now, it had appeared on a dividing soul tier cultivator. Heavens, what kind of monster was this? Ling Han sat down in a cross-legged position. He could not be bothered to care about what others thought. At this distance, if he could activate the Yin Soul Jade, then the dividing soul he formed would be the strongest among all the Yin souls. He released his divine sense, which spread out endlessly. When his divine sense spread out, it was naturally three-dimensional, but in the direction of the pond, his divine sense encountered an obstacle. No, the word obstacle was not quite appropriate. It should be said that it was a swamp, making it difficult for his divine sense to move forward. And at this moment, he could sense that there were many sparkling and translucent stones around the pond. These were Yin Soul Jades. If his divine sense resonated with one of them, that Yin Soul Jade would automatically fly out of the pond and become the vessel for his second dividing soul. But Ling Han had no intention of stopping. Instead, he spread out his divine sense and continued downward. He walked to the edge of the pond for the sake of obtaining the best Yin Soul Jade. And the best Yin Soul Jade was naturally in the deepest part of the pond. How could he be satisfied with just this? He continued downward, and it was incredibly difficult. This was far too taxing on his divine sense. Not long after, Ling Han felt mentally exhausted, and he wanted nothing more than to lie down and sleep. But if he slept, then all his previous efforts would be wasted. How could he allow this? Ling Han gritted his teeth and bravely continued downward. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. With every passing moment, Ling Han felt that he had reached his limit. But he still broke through his limit time and time again, breaking new records. What the hell? Ling Han was somewhat numb, but at this moment he reached the bottom of the pond. There was only a piece of jade there, which was emitting a gentle green light. Ling Han immediately had a feeling that this was the Yin Soul Jade he was looking for. He spread out his divine sense and collided with that piece of Yin Soul Jade. Boom! His divine sense collided with the stone. There was clearly no physical contact, but it made his whole body tremble, and his head felt like it was about to split open. He's so tough. Logically, divine sense was formless and could penetrate everything. Why did it fail when it encountered this stone? This should be the reason why it could become the vessel for his dividing soul. Chapter 2102. Ling Han continued to attack that Yin Soul Jade. Though he was bounced back time and time again, he was unyielding. This Een Soul jade was the largest that Ling Han had ever seen, and there was indeed a saying that the larger the Een Soul jade, the better the effect. Furthermore, this Een Soul jade was also in the deepest part of the pool, so it was most likely the king of Een Soul jades. Either he didn't want it, or he wanted the best. Ling Han began to fight with this Een Soul jade. If he didn't subdue it, he swore that he wouldn't rest. Hong hong hong. Every time he rammed into it, he was like a fish that didn't know its own limits crashing into a thick dam. It was impossible for him to destroy the dam, and would only cause him to bleed profusely. But for Ling Han, if he couldn't destroy it the first time, he would just crash into it a second time, a third time. As long as he didn't give up, then the dam would definitely be destroyed by him one day. Time passed by quickly. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed, and in the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed. 30 years, 50 years, 100 years. At the edge of the pool, there were already people who had obtained the Een Soul jade and completed their breakthroughs, happily leaving. There were also people who had stayed here for who knew how many years, and had no choice but to temporarily leave because they still had people they cared about and couldn't stay here forever. However, activating the Een Soul jade was an extremely time-consuming matter in the first place. Normally, it would start at 100 years, and then peak after 1,000 years. If one still couldn't activate the Een Soul jade in 1,000 years, then it would be better to try another one. Otherwise there was definitely no hope. Whether it was Ling Han, the Empress, Hunyou, or Bewitching Maiden Ro, none of them had activated the Een Soul jade, and sat there like a rock. 200 years, 500 years, 800 years. When newcomers came in and saw that there were actually 4 people near the pool, they would all be so shocked that their eyes would pop out. Especially Ling Han, who was right at the edge of the pool, and could touch the pool water with a stretch of his hand. This was something that practically only celestial kings could do. 1,000 years Xiao. A flash of light suddenly shot out from the pool. It was a jade stone, and then shot towards Bewitching Maiden Ro. With a paw, it smashed into her head, but strangely, it didn't cause any damage. Instead, it was like a clay ox entering water, quickly seeping in. In the blink of an eye, this jade stone had disappeared. She obtained the Een Soul jade. The Een Soul jade I obtained at 280 feet will definitely be incomparably powerful after merging with my subsoul. Tian he only obtained the Dark Spirit jade from a distance of 300 feet. Almost all the Earth Soul Realm experts in the 30 big cities near our capital Star City have been defeated. This woman must be even more powerful. Could it be that he can even fight against an initial heavenly soul? We'll only know when the time comes. Under everyone's envious and jealous gazes, Bewitching Maiden Ro began to fuse with the Een Soul jade and break through to the Een Soul stage. But why aren't there any movements from the other 3? It's been 1,000 years. It's almost the limit. They're definitely overestimating themselves and trying to draw out Een Soul jades that are beyond their level. Naturally, they won't succeed. That's right. Do you really think that you can attract the best Een Soul jade just by taking a few more steps? How naive. Humans will choose jade, and jade will also choose humans. Those with thin eyesight began to make sarcastic remarks again. However, Ling Han's group of 3 had indeed spent more than 1,000 years, leaving others speechless. It was likely that the 3 of them had already switched targets. Otherwise, it would only be a futile effort. 1,500 years, 2,000 years, why haven't the 3 of them succeeded yet? That's right. It should be very easy for such prodigies to draw out Een Soul jades. Hee, don't you know? There are many prodigies who are stunning at the start, but they will soon fade into the crowd. I think these 3 are one of them. We are inferior to them now, but when we reach the Heavenly Soul Realm, or even the Immortal Palace tier, these 3 might still be Yang Soul Realm. At that time, we will be able to suppress them with a single hand. Those people were becoming more and more unbridled. Only idiots and mediocre people would not gain anything after a few thousand years. Normal people would definitely be able to obtain Een Soul jades in around 1,000 years. Those 2 girls are really not bad. When I reach the Heavenly Soul Realm, hee. Ha ha ha. Hee hee hee. They not only belittled Ling Han's group, but they even had devious thoughts about the Empress and Hu Niu, staring at the two girls with evil eyes. Pa 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 pa. Figures fluttered about like straw, and bewitching Maiden Rose stopped moving. Her charming eyes swept over, yet there was a seething killing intent in them. Just now, it was she who had moved, and sent those people who had spoken dirty words flying. Those who had been sent flying all climbed back up, and glared at bewitching Maiden Rose with furious eyes, looking like they were going to attack her as a group. Yet bewitching Maiden Rose smiled sweetly. Everyone, why don't we take a bath in the pool? These words were seductive, and caused one's heart to race. Those people looked conflicted, but very quickly, their expressions all changed to one of astonishment. They were also a little dazed, and really started walking towards the Jade Pool. What kind of place was the Jade Pool? That was the location of the supreme regulations of water, equivalent to a celestial king. Even ascending origin tiers did not dare to directly touch the water of the pool. And in the dividing soul tier, even Sun Soul Emperors could only walk 300 meters, and Monarch tiers could only walk about 30 meters. As for others, it was already very impressive to walk 500 meters. These people did not even have a single king tier, so they were naturally incredibly ordinary. After walking for a short while, their bodies were covered in frost, and snot involuntarily flowed out. But the moment it flowed out, it turned into strips of ice that hung below their noses. Everyone's faces were as pale as paper. This kind of strange cold had the power to kill. Not long after, one person stopped in his tracks, and also stopped forever, turning into an ice sculpture there. If no one cared, he would stand there for eternity, and serve as a warning to those who came after him. Without enough strength, one should definitely not dream of approaching the Jade Pool. With one, there was a second, a third, and more people turned into ice sculptures. Bewitching Maiden. The others were all shocked. If these people had been thrown into the pool by Bewitching Maiden Rose and froze to death, then they would only sigh in admiration at the strength of Bewitching Maiden Rose's battle prowess. But she was an Emperor tier, after all, and a prodigy among Emperor tiers. So it was not strange that she possessed this kind of ability. But she only smiled sweetly, and these people, despite knowing that it was a land of death in front of them, still walked forward with a smile. What kind of terrifying ability was this? If she wanted them to kill their lovers, children, parents, and friends, then would they also carry it out? And when they woke up, what kind of pain would it be? What a frightening Bewitching Maiden Rose, too frightening. Bewitching Maiden Rose swept an eye over everyone, and did not speak, but the meaning that should be expressed had already been completely expressed. No one can speak ill of our old Ling family, and whoever does so will die. Domineering. That was domineering. So what if they were not convinced, they could just come and fight? With this display of might, everyone could not be more well-behaved. Putting aside king tiers, even if an emperor tier came, it was practically impossible for them to be a match for Bewitching Maiden Rose. She had now advanced into the Een Soul tier, and her battle prowess could sweep aside all Earth souls, and she could even put up a fight against Heaven souls with some difficulty. 3,000 years, 4,000 years, 5,000 years. Xiao, two flashes of light shot out from the pool at practically the same time. Another two Een Soul stones shot out, respectively towards the Empress and Hu Niu. Cell phone reading is even more refreshing. Chapter 2104. Going through the tribulation was a trivial matter for Ling Han. Half a day later, the dark clouds in the sky dissipated, and the clear sky reappeared. Although there was no sun in the sky, there were only countless stars decorating it. Now that the heavenly tribulation was over, it meant that Ling Han had truly stepped into the Een spirit realm. Bastard, how are you going to compensate me? The beautiful young woman shouted loudly. It was not because Ling Han was a ghost, but rather because she had lost her courage when she was only a third severance. She was like a little tiger. Ling Han, the Empress, Hu Niu, and Bewitching Maiden Rose all ran over as well. Meanwhile, Xiao Gu still had that adorable expression on his face. Putting aside the fact that only 9,000 years had passed, even if 9 trillion years had passed, he probably would not change much. Pretty big sister. The beautiful young girl looked at the Empress and the others, and her eyes involuntarily lit up. She no longer bothered to bicker with Ling Han about the fact that she had been dragged into this mess. Who is this? Bewitching Maiden Ro asked curiously. This damned enemy is really amazing. He can even hook up with a little girl when he's crossing the heavenly tribulation. Why don't you come and hook up with her? Beautiful sister, my name is Chen Shuang. The bright and beautiful girl immediately jumped over, and then looked at Bewitching Maiden Ro with an infatuated gaze. Big sister, can I hold your hand? Seeing her lecherous expression, the Empress and the others were all astonished. If it weren't for the fact that this girl was a genuine woman, they would definitely think that she was a man disguised as a woman, and was deliberately taking advantage of others. She stared at Bewitching Maiden Ro with eyes as pitiful as a puppy's. It was as if she would bawl loudly if Bewitching Maiden Ro shook her head, or said a single word. When Xiao Gu saw a newcomer, his interest in imitating her immediately soared. He also looked at Bewitching Maiden Ro with a pitiful gaze. Beautiful big sister, my name is Chen Shuang. No way. Bewitching Maiden Ro hurriedly stomped her foot. Though Xiao Gu looked the same as Ling Han, and though he was even more of a bone, how could her hand possibly be held by another man? Absolutely not. Sister, Chen Shuang called out. Big sister. Xiao Gu's interest did not diminish. Chen Shuang couldn't help but be furious. It was all because of this fellow who blindly joined in the fun, causing this beautiful big sister to be unwilling to let her hold his hand. Young lady, how do you think I should compensate you? Ling Han smiled. Who's a little girl? Chen Shuang put her hands on her waist and vented her anger on Ling Han. I'm much older than you, okay? Indeed, her fire of life had been burning for millions of years. She was definitely older than Ling Han. But not only was she older than Ling Han, she was also older than the Empress and Bewitching Maiden Ro. And she actually had the audacity to call Bewitching Maiden Ro big sister. How shameless. Ling Han chuckled. How about I compensate you with some star stones? I can't. Chen Shuang shook her head and took out a medicinal pouch. I accepted a mission from the sect and came here to pick the numbing cloud mushrooms. I was only one away from finishing, but the aftermath of your heavenly tribulation struck my medicinal pouch. As a result, all the numbing cloud mushrooms inside were destroyed. I want you to pay for the mushrooms. Ling Han walked towards the three women, and the Empress said, just pay some star stones. She was incredibly proud, and it was already very good that she was willing to pay for star stones. Just kill them to keep them quiet. Hunyo revealed her ferocity. She quite liked to scare people, but sometimes, one could not tell whether she was just scaring people or really wanted to kill them. Bewitching Maiden Ro was just about to speak, but saw Ling Han raise a palm at her. Forget about your opinion. Fuck. Bewitching Maiden Ro gritted her teeth in hatred. This despicable man. She really wanted to bite him to death 10,000 times. Big sister, this man does not cherish you at all. Hurry up and leave him. Chen Shuang took the opportunity to undermine her. Forget it. I'll just accompany you to pick the numbing cloud mushrooms, Ling Han said. Don't say it like you're wronged. This is what you should compensate me in the first place. Chen Shuang was really a little hot pepper. Then let's go. They started to wander around in the black screen forest. Though the numbing cloud mushrooms were a specialty of this place, they were not everywhere. Furthermore, there were many people picking herbs, so it would still take some time to pick one. Miss Chen, which sect are you from? Since they had nothing to do, Bewitching Maiden Ro started to chat with the other party. Big sister, I'm from the Heaven Saint Palace, Chen Shuang immediately said. Ling Han faltered, suddenly turned around and said, You're from the Heaven Saint Palace? What scared? Chen Shuang was very proud of herself. The Heaven Saint Palace was an 8th heaven celestial king tier force, and in the whole celestial realm, it was practically a top-notch existence. Ling Han was excited. Then do you know a person called Ling Jianxue? His precious son had been sent to the Heaven Saint Palace, and this was what Hunyo had told him. How do you know junior brother Ling? Chen Shuang tilted her head and looked at Ling Han. Oh, I understand. You know that junior brother Ling has recently become a core disciple. So you want to follow him, right? Follow his own son? Ling Han couldn't help but show a strange smile, and said, "Your imagination is really rich." Yet Chen Shuangshuang thought that she had guessed correctly, and proudly said, "Then you have to try your best to please me, because junior brother Ling listens to me the most." "Is that so?" Ling Han asked casually, and then shot a look at the Empress. The Empress understood, took a step forward and said, "Tell me about you and Ling Jianxue." Chen Shuangshuang was instantly at a loss. She liked beautiful women, not because there was a problem with her sexual orientation, but rather because she liked beautiful women. But the Empress and Hunyou were too beautiful, so beautiful that she felt pressure. She only dared to sneak a few glances, and did not even dare to speak to them. Now that the Empress had asked her directly, her heart thumped wildly, and she was so excited that she almost fainted. However, under the repeated questioning of the Empress, she finally recovered a little, and began to talk about the matter between her and Ling Jianxue. Oh, when Ling Han and the others heard this, they immediately understood. So Ling Jianxue liked this senior sister. But Chen Shuangshuang was a bit careless, and did not notice Ling Jianxue's feelings for her at all, thinking that the two of them were just senior sister and junior brother, who had a relatively good relationship. With that said, the look in Ling Han's eyes towards Chen Shuangshuang changed. Future daughter-in-law. Hey, what's with that look? It's weird. Chen Shuangshuang was frightened. I'm warning you, don't have delusions of having any ideas about me. That's impossible. Why? Ling Han said with a smile. Could it be because of that junior brother Ling? There are at least 8,000 if not 10,000 people pursuing this lady, and I won't fall for a playboy like you. Chen Shuangshuang expressed her disdain. This damn man actually occupied 3 beautiful sisters by himself, making her extremely jealous, and naturally did not have the slightest favorable impression of Ling Han. Ling Han laughed loudly. Although this daughter-in-law of his was a bit careless, and her preferences were a bit strange, her nature was very kind, and she did not have any deep thoughts, which made him very satisfied. Not again. I say, can you not look at this lady with such a strange look? Chen Shuangshuang said, displeased. Ling Han raised his hands and said, Okay, no, you can do it, right? When this girl found out that he was her father-in-law in the future, he wondered what kind of expression she would have. Just thinking about it was interesting. Ling Han suddenly discovered that he was actually a person full of bad taste. Chapter 2105. Oh right, that junior brother Ling of yours is sticking to you so much, so why didn't he come with you? Ling Han asked. Don't mention it. This guy has offended someone recently, and is about to be reprimanded. Chen Shuangshuang shook her head, showing a hint of anger. What's the matter? Bewitching Maiden Ro asked hurriedly. This brat is stubborn. He has clearly already become a core disciple, and if he works a little harder, he might enter the Holy Sun sequence. Furthermore, the granddaughter of Nine-Flower Grand Elder also fell in love with him, intending to marry him, but this brat actually refused. Chen Shuangshuang's expression was full of resentment. This stupid brat. Even if he refused, he should be more tactful. But he not only refused to her face, but also said that he already has someone he likes. So stupid. Now it's great. Even Nine-Flower Grand Elder is angry, and ordered him to be locked up, saying that when he changes his mind, he will be released. Sigh, don't you think this brat is stupid? Chen Shuangshuang said as she looked at bewitching Maiden Ro, her expression very rich. Ling Han and the others looked at each other, all having the same thought. You're the stupid one, right? Ling Jianxue did not hesitate to offend a Grand Elder for you, but you still said that he was stupid. Sigh, I've never seen a blockhead like you. Ling Han sighed and said, as expected, a stupid brat. He actually fell in love with such a simple-minded and crude person. They wandered around the black screen forest for 7 days, and gathered a lot of numb cloud mushrooms. There was only one stalk left for Chen Shuangshuang to complete the mission. It's finally time to call it a day. I'm so tired. Chen Shuangshuang panted heavily. Actually, with her 3rd severance cultivation level, how could she be tired? She was just putting on an act. Shwa, 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 the bushes in front of them suddenly shook. There's a ferocious beast. She immediately became alert. Shwa, the bushes parted, and a young man in white walked out. He was quite good-looking, tall with long legs, and a fourth severance cultivation level. Junior Sister Chun. This young man in white immediately called out. Chen Shuangshuang faltered. Yang Xiao, why are you here? Oh, I also accepted the mission to harvest the numbing cloud mushrooms. I didn't expect to meet you so coincidentally, said the white-robed young man, Yang Xiao, with a smile. However, there was a hint of pride in his eyes. Not only did he deliberately accept the same mission as Chen Shuangshuang, but he also paid a great price to drip a drop of jade dew liquid on Chen Shuangshuang's body to guide him along the way. It was only when he was about to catch up that he went around to the front and pretended to bump into her. What a coincidence! Chen Shuangshuang's line was too thick, and she did not suspect anything. When Ling Han saw this, a murderous intent surged in his heart. How dare he snatch his son's wife? However, he immediately suppressed this murderous intent. Chen Shuangshuang did not belong to anyone, so naturally, anyone could pursue her. Whether they succeeded or not depended on their own methods. Of course, if Yang Xiao wanted to play dirty, then he would definitely be ruthless. Hey, Junior Sister Chen, these 5 are? What Yang Xiao didn't expect was that Chen Shuangshuang actually wasn't alone, but with 5 other people. Furthermore, 3 of the women among them were even stunningly beautiful, so much so that he almost couldn't control himself. Oh, they are all junior brother Ling Jianshue's relatives, Chen Shuangshuang said. This was the truth, but Chen Shuangshuang's line of thought did not ask what kind of relatives they were. Junior brother Ling's relatives? Yang Zhao's gaze swept over Ling Han and the others, but he could not see anything. He was only a 4th severance, so it would be strange if he could see the depth of a dividing soul tear. So they are junior brother Ling's relatives. He clasped his hands in greeting. Though his tone was very polite, his eyes clearly showed hostility. Only Chen Shuangshuang did not know that Ling Jianshue was interested in him. For her sake, he had rejected a grand elder's granddaughter. And this also made Yang Xiao extremely jealous. If it were him, he would definitely gladly accept it. Grand Elder Jiuhua was a celestial king, and also a 3rd heaven being. If he could become his grandson-in-law, his future would definitely be boundless. Why not him? On the other hand, Yang Xiao also felt that Ling Jianshue was too stupid. If it were him, he would definitely agree first. There was no rule that a man could only marry one wife, and he could definitely slowly seduce Chen Shuangshuang in the future. Junior Sister Chen, I have already completed the mission. What about you? Yang Xiao withdrew his attention. Since he did not have Ling Jianshue's luck with women, he could only focus his energy on Chen Shuangshuang. Although this girl was a bit crude, her talent in martial art was very high, and she was also beautiful, so she was the best choice for a cultivation partner. There is still one more. Chen Shuangshuang sighed, and even gave Ling Han a look. If it were not for this guy, she would definitely have already called it a day. Then I will accompany Junior Sister, Yang Xiao said hurriedly. All right, Chen Shuangshuang said without hesitation. If it was only Yang Xiao, she would still hesitate, but now that there was already Ling Han and the others, she was not afraid of another Chen Xiao. A single man and woman definitely could not do. Ling Han rubbed his chin, his eyes darting over Yang Xiao. Just because this person was his son's rival in love, of course it was not right to kill. However, even if he could not kill someone, he could. How could he do that? As a father who had missed his son's growth, and had not been able to accompany his son for so many years, Ling Han did not mind doing some things for his son's sake. This was the willfulness of a father. After another day, they found the last numbing cloud mushroom, and completed the mission. During this period, Ling Han and the others also deliberately caused trouble, destroying Yang Zhao's several attempts to flatter Chen Shuangshuang, making this guy gnash his teeth in hatred. Now, this guy completely believed that Ling Han and the others were Ling Jianshue's relatives. Otherwise, how could he be so active in ruining the good things between him and Chen Shuangshuang? Damn it! After a day, he had also had enough of Ling Han and the others, especially Ling Han. Thankfully, Since the mushroom-gathering mission had been completed, he and Chen Shuangshuang would be returning to the Heaven Saint Palace and could part ways with these 5 people. He would no longer have to worry about a tree suddenly falling, the ground suddenly cracking, or a wild beast suddenly leaping out from nowhere while he was performing his duties. We're going to Kunpeng Palace. It's just on the way. We can say goodbye when we get to Kunpeng Heaven, Ling Han said with a smile. Okay. Chen Shuangshuang immediately became excited. There would be 3 more beautiful immortal kings for many days. Yang Zhao's face was completely black, his eyes were cold. He could not wait to skin Ling Han alive. You guys haven't harmed him enough. You still want to chase after him and cause destruction all the way. Once or twice for a day or 2, he could endure it. But you guys don't know when to stop. He can't endure it. Do you really think he has no temper? He soared with a murderous aura. Ling Han must be killed. As for these 3 women, they were so beautiful. It would be too much of a waste to kill them. If they were willing to agree to be his women, he would spare their lives, otherwise he would rape them first and then kill them. He made up his mind and immediately smiled, saying, Junior brother Ling's relatives are my relatives. I can't wait for you to stay with us for a few more days. Chapter 2106. Ling Han chuckled. This person's hypocrisy couldn't be more obvious. He didn't mind. Anyway, he had already decided to mess with this guy, so he could pretend however he wanted. They left the forest and began to head towards Kunpeng Heaven. Lu Herong didn't appear because Hunyao had already used a secret technique to communicate with her, saying that they were going straight to Kunpeng Heaven, and she didn't need to worry. Originally, Lu Herong wouldn't have agreed, but she suspected that there was a traitor in Kunpeng Palace, and she, as a celestial king, was a bigger target. If Hunyao went with Ling Han, and she went with him, she could attract a lot of attention from the Four Seas Palace, paving the way for Hunyao to return to Kunpeng Palace. Ling Han was that lord's heir, and she had considerable trust in Ling Han's ability to survive. It was precisely because of this that Lu Herong didn't appear, but followed in secret. When they were about to reach Kunpeng Heaven, she would leave alone to attract the attention of the Four Seas Palace. This time, they didn't have to rush to Kunpeng Heaven, but there was an interdomain transportation gate that could save a lot of time. There weren't many interdomain transportation gates like this, because only Ninth Heaven celestial kings, who were proficient in spatial regulations, could do it. And there weren't many such existences in the entire celestial realm. Kunpeng Heaven was named after Kunpeng, which showed how powerful Kunpeng Palace was back then, able to occupy a region. Unfortunately, the origin beast Kunpeng had long disappeared in the long river of history, and the previous palace master of Kunpeng Palace was ambushed and killed. Now was the time of a storm, and perhaps in a few epochs, Kunpeng Heaven would have to change its name. Along the way, Yang Xiao kept showing off, talking about the history of each place. He really had a way, and the stories he told were pleasant and fascinating, making Chen Shuangshuang nod continuously. Ling Han saw this, and thought that if he didn't quickly deal with Yang Xiao, his daughter-in-law would fly away. Fortunately, Chen Shuangshuang wasn't the only one who was thick-skinned to Ling Jianshui, but to everyone. Yang Xiao, being so attentive, as long as one had a bit of brain, should be able to see it, but she was just giggling shockingly thick. That's right, if coaxing was enough, I believe that Ling Jianshui would have already coaxed her into becoming his wife. How could there be so many things? 10 or so days later, they arrived at the Wind Capital. They found an inn to stay in, washed themselves, and rested a little before setting off again. The interregional portal was in Shiguang City, and it was at least a month's journey away from here. That night, Yang Xiao quietly went out. He had been here before and made some friends. Now it was time to make use of them. Ling Han showed a faint smile. The Mother Xuanin's water soul walked out from his body and moved along with Yang Xiao. Her main body continued to play cards with the Empress, Hunyao, and the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden. Meanwhile, Bewitching Maiden Rose served tea and water at one side, fully acting like a little wife. Wind Capital was also a large city. Yang Xiao flew all the way, crossing over thousands of mountains and rivers. After almost 6 hours, he finally arrived at a small town. Young Master Yang. Young Master Yang. Young Master Yang, long time no see. After arriving at Yangshao, the people in the town all greeted him respectfully. This was the heir of an 8th heaven celestial king tier force. With just a slight word, their tyrannical bear gang would be destroyed in a single night. Yangshao wore a reserved smile. When he first came to the Wind capital, he had a conflict with the tyrannical bear gang because of a small matter. But when the gang master of the tyrannical bear gang, Xiongxi, learned of his origins, he immediately reconciled with him with generous gifts. Xiongxi was a young soul elite, yet he lowered his head and addressed him as brother, making him feel very honored. As time passed, they became good friends. Is 4th brother here? He asked. Yes, yes. A gang member hurriedly led the way and brought Yang Xiao to a manor. Very soon, they arrived at the hall and saw that there was singing and dancing, and a banquet was being held. Ha 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 ha, younger brother Yang. A burly man came up to greet them. He really looked like a human-shaped tyrannical bear, and was precisely the leader of the tyrannical bear gang Xiongxi. He spread his arms and went to embrace Yang Xiao. 4th brother. Yang Xiao also opened his arms to welcome him. The two hugged for a while, and then let go. Younger brother. How did you find the time to visit 4th brother today? Xiongxi asked with a smile. There's something I want to ask 4th brother for help with. Yang Xiao was also not polite. Although Xiongxi's realm was far higher than his, he didn't have any reverence for Xiongxi, because the other was just a gangster leader. So what if he was strong? How could he compare with an upright disciple of a great sect? If there's something you need, just say it. As long as I can do it, 4th brother will never refuse. Xiongxi patted his chest, appearing heroic. It's just a small matter, Yang Xiao said. And then he smiled. I like a woman, but that woman doesn't seem to be very interested in me. So I want to ask 4th brother to arrange a good play of a hero saving a beauty for me. Haha, 4th brother understands. Xiongxi laughed and patted Yang Xiao's shoulder. Beauties love heroes. 4th brother will definitely send people to do it perfectly, so that younger brother, the hero, will be awe-inspiring. It would be even better if there's some extra play. Yang Xiao thought about it. For example, 4th brother can send people to give that woman some aphrodisiac or something. Fuck, this guy is really despicable, Xiongxi said in his heart, but the smile on his face was even more brilliant. No problem. Of course there's no problem. Yang Xiao, on the other hand, showed a look of anticipation. Tomorrow, Chen Shuangshuang would encounter a bully's invasion and be forced to drink aphrodisiac, and he would act at the most critical moment and save Chen Shuangshuang, which would definitely make the other party's heart palpitate. And after the other party's aphrodisiac flared up, he pretended to refuse, but in the end, it became a good thing. Cooking raw rice into cooked rice. Would he still be afraid that Chen Shuangshuang wouldn't be dead set on him in the future? To deal with this kind of thick-skinned woman, extreme methods must be used. Ling Han stood on the roof. This soul clone was formed from Xianin source water, and when he restrained his aura, he was no different from a drop of water. Not to mention the few sun souls below. Even the immortal mansion wouldn't be able to discover him. So that's how it is. He chuckled, changing his plan to kill Yang Xiao, this despicable person. He still had to let Chen Shuangshuang see the other party's true face. With such a comparison, it could be seen how precious Ling Jianshui's love for her was. Sigh for his son, he could only toss and turn. Ling Han turned around, his figure leaping up, and soon disappeared without a trace. Little brother, I recently obtained a secret technique, and was just looking for time to contact little brother to study it together. It just so happens that you came today. Xiongxi said. Oh, what secret technique? Yang Xiao asked casually, not taking it seriously at all. What secret technique could a rogue come up with? He was the successor of Heaven Saint Palace, and any immortal technique he casually took out could be regarded as a supreme secret technique by countless forces. Xiongxi chuckled. He saw the other party's disdain in his eyes, but did not refute it. He only said, this secret technique can instantly increase a person's combat power by 10 times. What? Yang Xiao immediately stood up, looking extremely shocked. 10 times combat power increase, you must be joking, right? Chapter 2108. Yang Xiao knew that it was time for him to show his worth. He jumped out at the first moment, in case Ling Han stole his business. Then what was the point of showing off? Although these 7 people looked unfamiliar, there were so many people in the brutal bear gang, and he couldn't possibly know all of them. What do you want? He shouted. What do we want? The young man smiled and glanced at the queen and Hunyeo. To fuck your sisters, of course. Ha ha ha. The 6 people behind him all laughed loudly. Well said, young Master Bing. Every word from young Master Bing is a golden sentence that can be passed down for hundreds of generations. Wonderful, truly wonderful. The 6 people flattered him, making young Master Bing even more proud. Ling Han was surprised. The situation didn't seem right. He released his divine sense and spread it endlessly. Then he revealed a smile. Interesting. He gave up on the idea of attacking, and even shook his head slightly at the queen and Hunyeo, indicating for them not to be angry. The queen and the others indeed had the urge to attack. How could they not be angry that he dared to speak nonsense in front of them? But since Ling Han said not to attack, then he must have a reason. Bear with it for now. Humph, you dare to flirt with innocent women in broad daylight, how audacious. Yang Zhao's face was frosty, but he was praising in his heart. As expected of a gangster gang, they didn't need to act at all. They were just gangsters. You're very arrogant, daring to talk nonsense in front of me. Young Master Bing's face suddenly darkened. That's right. Do you know who young Master Bing is? You'll be scared to death if I tell you. Forget it, just kill him. Young Master Bing has fucked these beautiful sisters. I'll do it. A man jumped out. He was dressed in gray and looked very simple, but upon closer inspection, this clothing was not simple. There was a faint glow of a formation on it. It was definitely a treasured clothing. Brat die. The man threw a punch. Yang Xiao was even more grateful to Xiongxi. This 4th brother was really willing to put in a lot of effort, even preparing a treasured clothing for a gangster. He was too good at acting. With that in mind, he attacked without hesitation. Bang, bang, bang. The 2 of them started a fierce battle. Yang Xiao quickly gained the upper hand, and it was an absolute advantage. Their cultivation levels were both at the 4th severance, but Yang Xiao was a king tier, while the other was an ordinary 4th severance. The gap between them was immediately apparent. Yang Xiao was proud of himself. This play made him feel very comfortable. Look at how awe-inspiring he is. Bam! He pressed his palm against the man's chest and pushed him back. He even winked at him, meaning to say, Brother, your acting is pretty good. 4th brother will reward you when we get back. Oh, that person let out a muffled groan and retreated 13 steps before stopping. He felt a salty taste in his mouth, and when he wiped it, he realized there was blood. Gui Er, how is it? The others asked. That person was furious. He pointed at Yang Xiao and said, This is a pervert. He's winking at me. What? The people on Master Bing's side were all shocked. How perverted was she to wink at a man? Gui Er, didn't he just touch your chest? Someone cried out. The man pressed his hands against his chest, his face turning green. That's right, why did he want to hit his chest? What place was not good to hit? The pervert Yang Xiao was dumbfounded. This wasn't in the play, so how could he be called a pervert? The Empress and the others came to their senses and communicated with Ling Han through divine sense. Isn't this a member of the tyrannical bear gang? No. Ling Han shook his head. The members of the tyrannical bear gang are still rushing over, but I've already used a dividing soul to create some trouble for them, so they won't be able to come in a short while. He used a dividing soul of the 9 heavens flame, and under the operation of the regulations of time and space, it was guaranteed that those severing mundane tears would continuously circle around on the spot, and the flow of time would be greatly slowed, but they wouldn't be able to detect it at all. Then these 7 are the real profligate young masters, Bewitching Maiden Rose said in surprise. Ling Han smiled and nodded. This was going to be a bit interesting. This guy has some strength, so we have to ask Brother Jun to step out. On Master Bing's side, Everyone's eyes were directed at a slightly short man. He looked to be in his 30s, and his appearance was not very impressive. Even Master Bing withdrew some of his arrogance and said, "Brother Jun, please make a move." That man nodded. Since Master Bing has spoken, I naturally have no reason to refuse. As he spoke, he strode out, his 10 fingers shining. There was actually a ring on each of his fingers, and they were as black as ink. Yang Zhao's heart suddenly tightened. He felt a pressure from this person. He couldn't tell what exactly was going on, but this was his intuition as a king tier. Fuck, it was just acting. There was no need to be so serious, right? Kneel and beg for mercy, and you can live, Brother Jun said calmly. He clenched his 10 fingers, and a cracking sound immediately rang out. Yang Zhao's expression was filled with pride. Now he was back in character. I, Yang Zhao, have never begged for mercy. Also, you guys immediately apologize to my junior sister and the 4 maidens. Otherwise, I will let you guys know how terrifying I am when I'm angry. You're courting death. Brother Jun scoffed. Xiao, his figure moved, and he charged towards Yang Zhao. Only an ordinary 4th severance. Yang Zhao was slightly surprised. He clearly felt a very strong pressure from the other's body. So why was the other's strength limited to this? He didn't dare to be careless. His hands clenched into palms, and he used a celestial technique to resist. Hong, the power of regulation surged, and Great Tao collided. How could an ordinary 4th severance possibly be a match for a king tier? This Brother Jun very quickly fell into a disadvantage, but Master Bing and the others were completely unconcerned. As if they were filled with confidence in this Brother Jun, Yang Zhao also felt that this was very normal. The others' posture should be to highlight the effect of their acting. Come, he had indeed worried too much. This person should be a divine fetus, Ling Han said with his divine sense. Poison fetus, the Empress followed up. He's so annoying, Hu Niu said in disgust. A poison fetus was also a divine fetus, but it was a very special kind of divine fetus. There are also strong and weak divine fetus. The power of his divine fetus is too weak, and probably can only unleash one attack. So he has been waiting for a chance all this time. Ling Han watched the battle, and made a judgment. However, it's almost time to decide the victor. Yang Zhao was already impatient. Only by winning in 2 or 3 moves would he be able to display his strength, so how could he delay? He gave a loud shout, and released his own defenses, pouncing towards Brother Jun. Now that he had released his defenses, his attack power naturally skyrocketed. Hong, he was like a huge wave, crushing towards Brother Jun. Explode. Brother Jun was not in a hurry, but instead smiled, the corners of his lips curling up slightly. That was an incredible mockery. Pa 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 pa. The rings on his fingers suddenly exploded, and bursts of green smoke surged out. Yang Zhao finally knew where his unease came from. This green smoke was definitely filled with a strong poison, and could instantly kill or severely wound him, or make him faint. In any case, he definitely could not come into contact with this green smoke. Fuck, this was different from what they had agreed on. How were you guys acting? Randomly adding drama for yourselves. Do you still want to live? Chapter 2109. But he had advanced rashly, and had completely removed his defenses. How could he dodge now? But if I sacrifice my defense and attack with all my might, how will you block it? You clearly wanted me to be the hero, but you came to make both sides suffer. What are you doing? Yang Zhao yelled in his heart that these people were unprofessional. What was going on with Xiongxi? He said it well a few days ago, but today he actually let these unreliable people act. Bam Yang Zhao's punch landed on Brother Jun's chest first. His original intention was only to injure Brother Jun and put on a show. However, due to his anger, he did not retract much of his strength. Therefore, although this punch would not kill Brother Jun, it would definitely severely injure Brother Jun. However, when the palm pressed down, Brother Jun's chest became strangely soft, unable to withstand any force. Yang Zhao was shocked. He saw that Brother Jun's whole body had turned into a green liquid, and there was a sweet smell gushing out, making people faint immediately. Virulent body, he immediately cried out inwardly. This was an immortal fetus, moreover an extremely rare poisonous body. I see. He understood that his opponent was deliberately luring him into an all-out attack, then using the poison in the 10 rings to deal with him. As for himself, he was relying on the poison body to neutralize his attack. The power of the immortal fetus was very weak, but it was more than enough to neutralize a single attack. On the other hand, he's in trouble. Damn it, aren't you acting too seriously? I didn't ask you to work so hard. Or rather, you guys aren't professional at all. I was the one who took care of you guys. So why am I the one getting taken care of instead? Pung! The green smoke wrapped around Yang Zhao's entire body. When the green smoke passed, Yang Zhao had already fallen to the ground. His entire body was twitching, appearing to be in extreme pain. This poison of mine is called absolute death extermination. It is a corpse poison extracted from immortal corpses. Those who are poisoned will be entangled by the aura of death, unable to move at all. It is impossible for them to die even if they want to. They will have to suffer for 3 days and 3 nights before turning into a desiccated corpse, said Brother Jun coolly. His body had already returned to its original state, but his face was still very pale. His immortal core's power was truly weak, so after forcefully activating it once, the burden on him was extremely great, making him feel incomparably uncomfortable. Fuck you. Yang Zhao couldn't open his mouth, and could only stare at him hatefully. What's the meaning of this? What's the meaning of this? I told you to put on a show. What the fuck are you doing? You're actually using annihilation on him? This was too unprofessional. He had to complain to his 4th older brother. Senior apprentice Brother Yang. Chen Shuang was a bit thicker. Only now did she know how to exclaim. Previously, Yang Zhao had always had the upper hand. She never thought that Yang Zhao would suddenly collapse. Ha 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 ha. Master Bing laughed. How about it? Is there anyone else who's not convinced? He stepped on Yang Zhao's head with 1 foot, and even crushed it, causing Yang Zhao's head to become deformed. Senior apprentice Brother Yang. Senior apprentice Brother Yang. Chen Shuang was very anxious. This was not because she liked him, but because they were from the same sect. She hurriedly said to Ling Han, "Quick, save my senior brother." Ling Han smiled and said, "It's fine. He has thick skin and flesh. He won't die." Yang Zhao almost fainted from anger. This was not a question of death, but it was too embarrassing. Could it be that these idiots made a mistake and thought that Ling Han was him? So they wanted Ling Han to be the hero to save the damsel in distress? Fuck. Where did these idiots come from? They were too blind. Bang 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 bang. A series of hurried footsteps rang out. Another 9 people came out of the blue mulberry forest. Each of them was also a hooligan. The only thing missing was the words, "I'm a hooligan," plastered on their faces. Yo, these chicks look pretty good. Let me. The 9 people started to tease Yang Zhao as soon as they came out. However, when they saw Yang Zhao lying on the ground, they couldn't help but be shocked. Why was the main character lying on the ground? How was the show going to continue? Although Yang Zhao couldn't move, he could see clearly because he was facing this direction. He knew at least 4 of these 9 people, and the one in the lead was Little Chung. Wait. Fuck, he was mistaken. The 7 people before weren't from the Grizzly Bear gang at all. They were real rich kids. Fuck, no wonder these 7 people were acting so hard. They weren't acting at all. Hiss. He sucked in a breath of cold air. If that was the case, then wouldn't his life be in danger if he fell into the hands of this young Master Bing? He knew how domineering these spoiled brats were. Killing a few people wasn't a big deal at all. If he flashed the name of the Heaven Saint Palace, he was sure that they wouldn't dare to touch him. They might even kneel and beg for mercy in fear and trepidation. However, the problem was that he couldn't even open his mouth or use his divine sense. He was like a living dead person. The people from the Grizzly Bear gang were stunned. What was going on? They hadn't even arrived yet, but the show had already begun. Furthermore, the main character had been taken care of. Quick, save young Master Yang. These people shouted one after another, and rushed out to confront young Master Bing and the others. Ling Han smiled and said to Chen Shuang, he has many friends. We don't need to be nosy." Young Master Bing snorted and said, "Who are you? How dare you be so impudent in front of me? I don't care who you are. Let go of our young Master Yang." Little Ching shouted. There's actually someone who dares to call himself young master in front of me. Young master Bing snorted. I'm very angry, and the consequences will be severe. He paused, and then said darkly, kill them all. Yes, young master Bing. The people behind him all rushed out, but Brother Jun retreated. He used the power of his divine fetus once, and was currently in an extremely weak state. His battle prowess had dropped too much, and he wasn't in a good condition to fight. Kill, save young Master Yang. Little Chung and the others shouted loudly. They all drew their sabers and swords, and charged towards young Master Bing and the others. Ding ding dang dang, instantly the chaotic battle began. These ruffians who should have been defeated by the hero, now became the ones to save the hero. The reversal was too great. Interesting. Ling Han took out chairs from the Black Tower, and handed them to the Empress, Hu Niu, and the others. He also took some spirit sunflower seeds, and started munching on them. Chen Shuangshuang was dumbfounded. You guys are too casual, aren't you? People are fighting, and it's fine if you don't help. But you're actually playing and eating melon seeds at the side, and you don't even care about other people's feelings. It's fine, let's sit together. Ling Han took out another chair, and stuffed some melon seeds for his future daughter-in-law. Spirit sunflower seed. Chen Shuangshuang was quite knowledgeable, and immediately cried out. Spirit sunflower was an immortal medicine. Its seed was its essence. It was incomparably precious. It's only a little over 1 billion years old. It's not enough to be used as medicine. Just eat it casually, Ling Han said with a smile. Eat immortal medicine freely. Chen Shuangshuang was stupefied. Although an immortal medicine that was more than 1 billion years old couldn't be considered a great medicine, it was still an immortal medicine, no matter how bad it was. It was too wasteful to eat it like melon seeds. But she liked it. This girl was extremely careless, since she was only a third severance, and was far inferior to Yang Xiao. Then even Yang Xiao was no match for her. So what help could she possibly offer? Thus, she would just leave the matter of risking her life to others. She would just act obediently, so as to avoid adding to the chaos. Thus, she also sat down and began to eat some melon seeds while she was at it. Fuck, I'm still lying here, and my life and death are uncertain, Yang Xiao screamed in his mind. Chapter 2110. Delicious. Good. Fun. Ling Han and his group were the unreliable type, so it was a good way to pass the time while munching on melon seeds. And on the two sides of the battle, though only 5 people from Young Bing's side had joined the battle, they were all at the peak stage of the 4th severance. Their battle prowess was stronger, and they quickly suppressed Little Chung and his group. A bunch of trash. Kill them all. Kill. Their killing intent soared, and they all attacked without mercy, wanting to kill all of Little Chung and his group. Pew. Blood splattered and severed limbs danced. The battle prowess of the tyrannical bear gang was uneven, so how could they block the rampage of the 5 elites? Instantly, they suffered a crushing defeat. In just a dozen or so rounds, 3 of them had fallen to the ground, killed on the spot. This time, Chen Shuangshuang couldn't sit still. No matter how thick-skinned she was, she couldn't possibly not be moved even by the dead. Yet Ling Han crossed his legs, smiling, and said, No rush, this is just a dogfight. He paused, and then continued. That senior brother of yours knows the group that came later. At first, he planned to let them tease you, and then come out to save the damsel in distress. In the end, someone stole the show, and caused this situation. Nonsense. Chen Shuangshuang immediately shouted. She couldn't slander her senior brother like this. Whether it's nonsense or not, think about it yourself. Ling Han didn't try to defend himself. Chen Shuangshuang thought carefully, and instantly discovered many things that were not right. For example, when Yang Xiao had moved against Young Bing and his group previously, he had clearly shown mercy. This didn't match Yang Xiao's personality. And when Little Chung and his group appeared, they also looked sloppy and spoke rudely. But when Yang Xiao lay on the ground, they immediately changed their words. Remove all the impossible, and then no matter how unimaginable, it would be the truth. Senior brother Yang was actually this kind of person, despicable, shameless, and obscene. Chen Shuangshuang was indeed thick-skinned, But this was different from stupidity. Otherwise, how could she have been accepted as a disciple by the Heaven Saint Palace? She sat back down and glanced at Yang Xiao, her heart burning with anger. He actually wanted to deceive her heart like this. How naive. If she could be so easily moved, she would have married a few million years ago. It's not that simple, Ling Han said leisurely. He also has an agreement with the Tyrannical Bear Gang. The people behind you are all from the Tyrannical Bear Gang. They have agreed to let them take you down and feed you some aphrodisiac first. Shameless, shameless to the extreme, Chen Shuangshang angrily rebuked, wishing that she could rush up and step on Yang Xiao a few times. Yang Xiao was slightly shocked. It was not that he was not shocked, but the muscles on his face were stiff, and he could not move at all. His heart was filled with shock. How did Ling Han know about this? You're even more shameless than me. Master Bing rubbed Yang Xiao's head. I was just forcing myself. Scoundrels don't lie to their hearts. I despise you. Yang Xiao was so depressed that he wanted to die. He was actually looked down upon by someone like Master Bing. Ah! Little Ching suddenly roared. Hong! A black-colored aura surged out of his body. It was neither mist nor smoke, but it was extremely dense. It filled an area of 10 zhang around him, almost making it impossible for his figure to be seen. However, his aura suddenly became many times stronger, as if he had suddenly become a different person. Ling Han immediately stood up. It was not Little Cheng's strength that shocked him. In truth, even if the latter's strength was 10,000 times stronger, he would not take it to heart, but he was very familiar with this aura now. Another cultivation system. Ling Han thought of the island of embarkation that he had been to previously. The people there would take in survivors who had encountered a shipwreck, and then lure them into the darkness, worshipping the so-called celestial spirit, and cultivating another martial arts system, thus achieving the goal of overturning the original world. Some survivors had long since left the island, spreading the so-called celestial spirit in the celestial realm, spreading another cultivation system, and thus cutting off the foundation of this world. This kind of spreading definitely could not be among the great sects, but rather among the low-level cultivators. At first Ling Han had thought that it would be below celestial level, but now, he was optimistic. The situation was already very grim. With Little Cheng's display of might, the situation was instantly turned around. Big Brother Jun had only won against Yang Xiao because of the unexpected burst of power from his divine fetus. Otherwise, how could a 4th Severance King tier possibly defeat a 4th Severance King tier? Boom! Little Cheng was like a great demon king of the dark world. He clearly did not use any power of regulation, but each of his punches and kicks was filled with destructive power, causing others to not dare to face him head-on. They could only flee in a sorry state. He charged towards young Master Bing, and Big Brother Jun hurriedly stepped out, wanting to block Little Cheng. But how could his own battle prowess be a match for the current Little Cheng? Gritting his teeth, another 10 rings appeared on his hand. Pa! They all exploded, green smoke rising. Little Cheng did not dodge, and his hands turned into sharp blades, stabbing towards Big Brother Jun's chest. Big Brother Jun used the same trick, turning his body into a poisonous liquid. As long as their cultivation level was the same, no one could think of injuring him in this state. Of course, he could only maintain this invincible state for a short moment, and he was forced to use the power of his divine fetus twice in a day, so he would definitely be heavily injured. Pooh! Little Cheng's hands fell, but there was a spray of blood. The poison body had no effect on him at all. Big Brother Jun stared at his opponent blankly. He could feel that his heart had already been pierced, and an indescribable power of destruction was spreading from his heart to his consciousness. It was unstoppable. In just an instant, his consciousness was completely annihilated, transformed into Tao, and disappeared. He was extremely unwilling to accept this. Even activating the divine fetus could not avoid this attack. How was this possible? If he had known this would happen, he would not have gotten involved in this. He only wanted to suck up to the Long family, but he did not have the slightest intention of losing his life here. Ling Han was stunned at first, and then he made an "oh" in his heart. Although the power of the divine fetus was powerful, such as turning into a poisonous liquid and being invulnerable to all techniques for a short period of time, such techniques were targeted at the rules of this world. Little Chung, on the other hand, was a cultivator of a different system, and naturally would not be obstructed by the divine fetus. This was the opposition of two different worlds. Young Master Bing was so frightened that he hurriedly fled. Fortunately, Little Cheng's target was only Yang Xiao, and did not pursue him, allowing him to escape by a fluke. Little Cheng snatched Yang Xiao over and shouted, "Young Master Yang, Young Master Yang." If Yang Xiao still had the strength, he would definitely jump up and slap this guy. "Did you not realize that I was poisoned? I can't speak or move at all. What are you shouting for? Hurry up and take me to find treatment." Unfortunately, Little Cheng's intelligence was really limited. He only knew how to howl, and did not know how to be flexible. "Go, go!" Young Master Bing shouted, calling his gang of scoundrels away. They were indeed no match for them. Little Cheng did not pursue them either. His mind was full of Yang Xiao. If something happened to Yang Xiao, he would definitely be killed by Fourth Bear. Yang Xiao was obviously not a big deal. The key was that he was a chess piece, a seed that would overthrow the Heaven Saint Palace in the future. He finally reacted and carried Yang Xiao, wanting to rush back to the tyrannical bear gang. "Wait!" Ling Han stretched out his hand to stop him. Chapter 21:12. "Who's above you?" Ling Han asked, his tone calm, but with a hint of intimidating killing intent. He would never be merciful, especially towards a cultivator of another system. Each of them was a parasite that corroded the celestial realm. Xiongxi revealed a look of struggle, but kept his mouth shut tightly. "Not talking, huh?" Ling Han thought for a moment and said, "I can only burst his chrysanthemum." Xiongxi instantly panicked. Among all the unbearable pain he could not bear, bursting his chrysanthemum was definitely one of them. But thinking of the consequences of being betrayed by the organization, he just trembled all over, and still did not speak. "Niu, come!" Hu Niu rushed up, and with a flurry of punches, beat Xiongxi into a pig's head. But although Xiongxi screamed again and again, seeming to have no backbone at all, he did not spit out the truth. "It's useless," Xiongxi said in a weak voice. "There's a restriction in my mind, and as long as you mention something that shouldn't be mentioned, my mind will immediately collapse." Ling Han naturally would not believe it easily, and pressed his hand on Xiongxi's forehead, sending his spirit into it. Wang, his divine sense took form, and was exactly the same as him, but shrunk by who knew how many times, and then pressed straight into Xiongxi's mind. Strange. He immediately discovered that the periphery of Xiongxi's mind was indeed set up with a restriction. Wisps of black aura surged, exuding an evil that was incompatible with this world, making Ling Han involuntarily feel a sense of disgust. After a slight analysis, Ling Han discovered that it was not his own body that was repelling this aura, but the rules he cultivated. Those who did not cultivate the rules of this world were not tolerated in this world, and were enemies. This black aura was very powerful, and although it was only a wisp, it had the ability to destroy Ling Han's spirit, so he did not dare to act rashly. But to let Xiongxi go just like that? It was rare to encounter a living mouth, so Ling Han had to get some useful information out of him. Could the source power of heaven and earth resist it? With a thought from Ling Han, the power of 4 source powers were all activated, and entered Xiongxi's body. "Ah!" Xiongxi immediately let out a blood-curdling screech. For beams of light shot out of his body, and soared into the sky. They were like 4 pillars of light that connected the heavens. After being tormented by the 4 origin forces, even if Xiongxi didn't die, he would be crippled. Ling Han didn't care about this. It was fine as long as Xiongxi didn't die, before he could get any useful information out of him. Protected by the power of origin, Ling Han began to attack Xiongxi's sea of consciousness. The black aura immediately attacked, transforming into blades, swords, axes, and battle axes. Slash 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 slash. While Ling Han used his 4 origin powers to defend himself. The confrontation at the level of divine sense was more at the level of martial art, But the 4 heaven and earth origins were all at the immortal king level. Once they did not need to be linked to Ling Han's cultivation, their heights were actually far higher than Ling Han's. Boom! Ling Han's divine sense was surrounded by a 4-colored halo. He was like a 4-colored god of war, cutting through all the obstacles in front of him and advancing bravely. Although he had been rushing forward, he was very shocked in his heart, because the 4 origin powers had joined forces to cut through the obstacles in front of him. The strength of the person who laid down this restriction was absolutely unfathomable. When Ling Han was about to kill his way into Xiongxi's Sea of Consciousness, the black aura seemed to know that it was impossible to stop him. It actually stopped attacking him and turned to slash at Xiongxi. Not good, Ling Han cried out in his heart. But how could he stop it? Boom! Xiongxi's Sea of Consciousness suddenly exploded, and he didn't have the slightest strength to resist. Damn it! Ling Han had to use all his strength to grab the memory fragments of Xiongxi. Under the resistance of the 4 origin powers, some memory fragments were finally preserved. Immortal ancient battlefield extracting source Black Dragon King. Ling Han murmured. The memory fragments he obtained were really pitiful, but he still got a few keywords. And what shocked him the most was naturally the information about extracting Source Black Dragon King's Sea of Consciousness. Source Black Dragon King was born according to the will of heaven and earth, and represented the Tao of heaven and earth. If Source Black Dragon King's Sea of Consciousness was destroyed, the blow to this heaven and earth would be massive. It was like killing someone's son. How sad would the parents be? This dark organization had a history in this regard. The Island of Ascension had been plotting for millions of years. And wasn't it for the sake of heavenly origin green gold? If Ling Han hadn't coincidentally encountered the tsunami, and Xiao Gu just happened to arrive, the result would really be hard to say. However, had that great wave really appeared for no reason? Ling Han suddenly had doubts. The heaven and earth had spirits, such as heavenly tribulation, which was clear proof. However, the heaven and earth could only operate under certain rules, and couldn't interfere too much. Otherwise, if everyone underwent a celestial king tier tribulation, then who could survive? The sea roared and slapped him to the Island of Ascension. Wasn't this a kind of self-rescue by the heaven and earth? Ling Han suddenly felt that the heaven and earth were actually very pitiful. It clearly grasped the strongest power in the world, but many times, it was even inferior to a severing mundane tier minor immortal. Xiao, his divine sense retreated from Xiongxi's mind, only to see that Xiongxi was already completely dead. There was no injury on the surface, as if he was sleeping soundly, but his mind had exploded, so he naturally couldn't be more dead. How is it? The Empress asked darkly. Ling Han nodded. I know some things, but the magnitude of the matter might be beyond the scope of our ability. What is it? A figure appeared soundlessly. It was Lu Herong. She really appeared, and disappeared mysteriously. Ling Han thought for a moment, and felt that this matter wasn't something he could resolve. He had to ask a celestial king to move out. In the celestial realm, those with the title king were usually celestial kings. Otherwise, they would be beaten to death in a few days. Xiongxi's memory should say that there was a source black dragon in the celestial ancient battlefield, and the dark organization was currently extracting it, and the elite overseeing it was the Black Dragon Celestial King. The Island of Ascension also had a source black dragon, but the one overseeing it was only an ascending origin tier, which was a 9 Lotus elite. Now there was actually a celestial king overseeing the celestial ancient battlefield. The gap was really big. There were only 3 minor levels in the ascending origin tier, but there were 9 heavens in the celestial king tier, and each step was like ascending to the heavens. The gap was too big, and even Lu Herong might not be able to deal with it. Ling Han thought for a moment, and said, Does Senior know of another cultivation system? They use 1 lotus and 2 lotuses to divide the levels? Lu Herong looked surprised. What nonsense was this brat talking about? Under the restrictions of the regulations of the heaven and earth, everyone could only follow the rules of the heaven and earth. So how could there possibly be another cultivation system? Ling Han was also slightly surprised. Lu Herong actually didn't know of the existence of another cultivation system? He hadn't even heard of a four-heaven celestial king. Aya, don't waste your breath on her. Hu Niu put her hands on her hips. Ugly old woman. Niu orders you to immediately gather elites. Niu wants to fight. Lu Herong shook her head with a bitter smile. Now that the Kuanpeng Palace was being forced into a dire situation by the Four Seas Palace, survival was a problem. How could they mobilize experts? Even she had to squeeze her way out. Furthermore, the removal of a fourth firmament immortal monarch would greatly strain the Kuanpeng Palace's defensive line. It wasn't that the Rock Palace wasn't strong, but that the Four Seas Palace was stronger. In other words, we still have to work together? Ling Han muttered. There's also Xiao Gu, the Empress reminded. Ling Han nodded. Though Xiao Gu was also a completely unreliable guy, his strength was solid. His normal battle prowess had reached the ascending origin tier. And with the power of his celestial king bone, he could even match a celestial king. Then we'll wait for Xiao Gu to return first, and then we'll make plans. Chapter 2113. Thankfully, Xiao Gu came back 2 days later. This guy spoke wildly the moment he came back, as if he was going to spit out all the words he had heard these few days, making Ling Han and the others feel a headache coming on. Because all he had heard were the daily gossip of the aunties in the streets. Could you imagine what it would be like if a bone complained that the groceries he bought today were too expensive? 2 days ago, Ling Han had destroyed the statue under the tyrannical bear gang in passing. It was like a totem, and could provide power to those who worshipped darkness. Ling Han didn't know what the reason was, but it was fine. Xiao Gu, you're the last one. Let's go. Xiao Gu, we're just one more. Let's go. Xiao Gu learned every word. He still liked to imitate Ling Han's words the most. Here comes the problem. Where is the celestial ancient battlefield? Ling Han murmured. Lu Herong had lived for a long time. As far as she knew, there were 3 places that could be called celestial ancient battlefield, and the one closest to them was in the rock heaven. Legend has it that 7 or 8 eras ago, a world-shaking battle broke out, and countless celestial kings were swept into it. It was incredibly tragic. The first palace master of our rock palace, one of the strongest source beasts in the world, Rock, perished in that battle, Lu Herong said. What kind of battle was that? Even a 9th heaven celestial king perished, and Rock was definitely not an ordinary 9th heaven celestial king, but an overlord among celestial kings, a super elite that could be called a celestial emperor. Was it related to the tide of darkness? Ling Han was surprised. Since so many celestial kings perished, then this ancient battlefield must be a super huge treasure trove. Why didn't anyone go to take the treasures? To say nothing else, there should be a large pile of celestial tools. Lu Herong shook her head. She was polite to Ling Han that surpassed her cultivation level. Because no one knows where this ancient battlefield is. The battle of celestial kings disrupted time and space, and the celestial kings of later generations all speculated that this ancient battlefield had been beaten into a void, and could no longer be entered. Ling Han, the Empress, and the others nodded slowly. A single celestial king had the ability to shatter heaven and earth. What more, a battle involving countless celestial kings? And there was also a celestial emperor that was almost invincible like the Kuanpeng. Then how do we find this ancient battlefield? Ling Han was troubled. Even Lu Herong could only shake her head. In reality, their rock palace also urgently wanted to enter this ancient battlefield to find the rock origin beast, complete some inheritances, and retrieve some treasures. A 9th heaven celestial king tier celestial treasure was astonishing. It could definitely resolve the predicament that the rock palace was currently facing. I can. Small Tower suddenly spoke up. Ling Han was surprised. How did you know? Because back then, I was also on the battlefield, Small Tower slowly said. Ling Han couldn't help but feel numb. Xiao Gu had actually participated in the battle, where the Kuanpeng had fallen. He hurriedly asked, how did this battle erupt, who fought whom, and what was the final outcome? Why do you have so many questions? Small Tower asked impatiently. Can't I just be curious? Ling Han said with a smile. He had long since learned not to get angry with this Tsundere tower. Small Tower hesitated, and then said, "All right, your cultivation level has also risen, and you have also learned some things. I might as well divulge some secrets to you." "Really?" Ling Han was surprised. He had thought that Small Tower was trying to discourage him again, so he shut his mouth and did not say anything else. "You already know that there is a force that is currently spreading another cultivation system and attempting to overturn this heaven and earth." Small Tower would not waste words and went straight to the point. Ling Han nodded. Actually, the invasion of this force had already begun a very, very long time ago. Small Tower said unhurriedly. They do not belong to this heaven and earth, but rather come from another world. However, if you ask me where, then even I do not know. In the beginning, our two worlds were only connected by a single point, and elites could not pass through. That was because the passageway was too unstable, and there was also the rejection of the power of a world, which could not accommodate the power of elites. Meanwhile, the weak would not be able to resist the pressure in the passageway at all, and would instantly die. That's right. This so-called elite refers to the celestial kings of the ninth heaven. Ling Han had originally been listening very quietly, but when Small Tower added this, he could not help but be tongue-tied. The standard of this elite was too high, wasn't it? Even if he searched the entire celestial realm, there would not be many who met the requirements. In the beginning, the major figures of the celestial realm did not take it seriously, but this connection point slowly expanded and gradually stabilized. One day, finally, celestial kings of the ninth heaven could pass through, and celestial kings of the eighth heaven could also pass through. However, before the celestial kings of our world could go over to see what was going on, countless elites from the other side attacked. In the beginning, our world was caught off guard. Countless lives were lost, and even the number of celestial kings that died numbered in the millions. It was only when several heavenly venerables took action that the situation was stabilized, and the most tragic battle took place in the rock heaven. Including the rock, a total of 17 celestial kings of the ninth heaven perished. This also caused great damage to the vitality of the celestial realm. Even though 8 epochs have passed, the celestial realm has still not been able to recover its vitality and return to its former heyday. However, this was not the end. There were still elites from that world who were constantly attacking the connection point, trying to rally their forces and invade our world again. The other side also had heavenly venerables. They were constantly stabilizing the connection point so that their heavenly venerables could also pass through, and not just a mere projection. From that moment on, the war between the two worlds never stopped. We called it the tide of darkness. During this period, the forces of darkness thought of many ways to try and overthrow our world. One of the methods they used to spread their own cultivation system was to destroy our world from its foundations. The celestial spirit they believed in was one of the heavenly venerables of the forces of darkness. Ling Han was already speechless. So this celestial spirit was truly an incredibly awesome existence. Heavenly venerables. That was an existence that surpassed the laws of heaven and earth. Why aren't you talking anymore? He suddenly realized that Small Tower had already stopped talking. Small Tower said in an indifferent tone, "I've already told you everything that I should tell you. There's no point in asking what I can't tell you." Alright. However, this time, Ling Han was already very satisfied. At least he knew who his true enemy was. The forces of darkness, the invaders from another world, trying to destroy the entire celestial realm. Why are they doing this? Ling Han asked the last question. Do they want to turn us all into slaves? No. Small Tower made an exception and spoke, its tone heavy and stern. This is a war between two worlds. Once we lose, the other world will swallow this world, and all of us will be turned into ashes. Not even the imprint of our memories will remain. It will be as if our world had never existed in the first place. Ling Han could not help but feel a chill run down his spine. This was not a matter of 1 or 2 people dying. Rather, all traces of the entire world would be erased. No, definitely not. Let's go. No matter what, We cannot allow them to extract the source power of heaven and earth. Chapter 21:14. LV Herong had an inexplicable trust in Ling Han. When Ling Han said that he could find the immortal ancient battlefield, she didn't have the slightest bit of doubt, and immediately set off with her people. When they entered Kuanping Heaven, Chen Shuangshuang was left behind. She would return to Heaven Saint Palace alone. It was too dangerous to stay with Ling Han and the others. On the other hand, if she was alone, no one would care about her. Ling Han also wanted to immediately go to Heaven Saint Palace to visit his son, but if the dark forces obtained the source energy of heaven and earth, and used it to expand and stabilize the connection point between the two worlds, then the celestial realm would be one step closer to destruction. Can't we defeat that world? Ling Han asked. Why could they invade it? Why couldn't the celestial realm's experts counterattack? Small Tower said. Because they are stronger. Simple and clear. No matter where, those with bigger fists had the most weight. How strong are they? Ling Han wanted to know. Our world only had 4 celestial venerables at most. Now there are 3, while the other world has a total of 7 celestial venerables. Small Tower revealed an extremely grim truth. 7 celestial venerables? The disparity in battle prowess was truly too great. Ling Han shut his mouth. If he wanted to resolve the celestial realm's crisis, then he had to reach the celestial venerable level. Otherwise, even a 9th level celestial king would be useless. They wouldn't be a match for a celestial venerable at all. Are celestial venerables that strong? He asked curiously. 10 9th level celestial kings. And they have to be the most powerful celestial emperors. Only then can they possibly stop a celestial venerable. Small Tower muttered to itself. Note that they can stop a celestial venerable, but they can't match a celestial venerable. A 9th level celestial king could stand shoulder to shoulder with the world, but a celestial venerable was an existence that surpassed the world, and wasn't restricted by it. In other words, even if this world is destroyed, a celestial venerable won't die. Ling Han suddenly thought of something. Not bad. Small Tower nodded. Realization dawned on Ling Han. No wonder Small Tower and the black dog would occasionally grumble, saying how those old geezers were indifferent to the common people. In reality, even if a great calamity really occurred, they would not die. In fact, they could even live very well in the other world. Thus, they naturally would not fight head-on against them. Stop right here, Small Tower suddenly said. Stop, 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 Ling Han hurriedly shouted. LV Herong stopped in her tracks, and let everyone down. Here. She was a little stunned. This was a barren land, barren to the point where not even a single rock could be seen. How could this be the location of the immortal ancient battlefield? Little Tower? Ling Han asked in his mind. Then, Small Tower was responsible for pointing the way. After walking for a while, they stopped, but their surroundings were still empty. Idiot! I already said that the immortal ancient battlefield was blasted into the void by immortal king-level power, leaving behind only a passageway. We can find that ancient battlefield through the void. The small pagoda said without the slightest trace of politeness. Yaya. Xiaogu suddenly became excited. Ling Han knew that if Xiaogu did not imitate him and spoke on its own, it usually meant that he was angry. And if he was angry, it meant that he had discovered a cultivator of another system. Dark forces inside Xiaogu's body, that celestial king bone started to glow. One after another, brilliant seals lit up on his chest. He stretched out his hand and tore at the air. This was clearly just air, but under Xiaogu's hand, it was as if there really was a wall ahead, and it was shattering piece by piece. Regulations of space, LV Herong said with narrowed eyes. Apart from celestial kings that had achieved their Tao through regulations of space, ordinarily, celestial kings would only have enough time and resources to focus on other great Tao after reaching the 9th heaven, such as regulations of space. Of course, the people of Rock Palace all cultivated the spatial laws because they all had the Rock bloodline. They also had corresponding cultivation techniques and secret treasures. This was also one of the reasons why they were so powerful. The spatial laws were more powerful than other laws, But LV Herong now shockingly discovered that she actually did not understand the regulations of space that Xiao Gu used. This meant that Xiao Gu's cultivation level had been even higher at the time. She was incredibly curious. Which celestial king had Xiao Gu been when he had been alive? With just a few moves, Xiao Gu had forcibly torn open a gap that led to the empty space. The space of the celestial realm was originally incredibly stable, and even in a great battle of ascending origin tiers, it was very difficult to create a passageway that led to the empty space, but Xiao Gu had done it. Yaya! Xiao Gu's expression was filled with fury, and with a leap, he was the first to enter this passageway. LV Herong only hesitated slightly before grabbing everyone and charging in together. Very soon, this opening slowly recovered, as if it had never appeared in the first place. The heaven and earth had powerful recovery abilities. Hong hong hong. In the empty space, energy was raging like a tide. There was indeed no material substance in the empty space, but there were wild tides of energy everywhere, forming a terrifying storm. Even if an ascending origin tier barged in, it was possible that they would be instantly torn into pieces. Thankfully, they had the protection of a celestial king, which was enough to ensure their safety. Xiao Gu walked at the very front, his body turning into a stream of light, his speed becoming faster and faster, even making LV Herong feel strained. It was just a bone, yet it actually possessed such might. This was too astonishing. Just how powerful had this celestial king been in the past? Thankfully, LV Herong was a celestial king that was skilled in the regulations of space. Otherwise, any fourth heaven celestial king could not possibly catch up to Xiao Gu. But even with the extreme speed of the two great celestial kings, they still traveled in the empty space for a whole 7 days and 7 nights. And a small dot appeared ahead. There was actually something in the empty space, and it had not been destroyed. After traveling for another half a day, this small dot also continued to grow larger in their eyes, from a dot to a piece of flatbread, and then to an indescribably colossal continent. This is the real Rockpung heaven, LV Herong exclaimed. In the battle in the past, the entire Rockpung heaven had been beaten into the empty space, and the present Rockpung heaven had been rebuilt from a stretch of ruins. This was a heaven realm, so it was naturally ridiculously large. Even with the vision of a celestial king, they could not possibly see the end with a single glance. Xiao Gu was the first to land on the continent, and LV Herong hurriedly followed suit. Ling Han and the others discovered to their surprise that there was actually no energy storm here. It is this continent that has blocked the energy storm. There have really been too many celestial kings that have died in the past. This is the great tomb of a celestial king, LV Herong said. Indeed, this was the great tomb of a celestial king, and countless celestial kings had been buried here, containing innumerable impossibilities. Xiao Gu sank into a state of confusion. Because there was nothing else in the empty space, the power of darkness was as strong as the sun. But here, the aura of a celestial king had obscured the sky, and instead caused him to lose all clues. Then we'll search slowly, Ling Han said smilingly. However, to search for a few people in a place as large as the heaven realm was easier said than done. Do your best to walk through every corner. As long as I can sense the aura of the source power of heaven and earth, I will naturally find the people of the dark forces, Small Tower said. Ling Han nodded. This was the only way. They circled around this continent. Thankfully, they had a celestial king leading them, and their speed was astonishingly fast. But if they wanted to search every corner, this was not a matter of circling around, but rather hundreds of millions of miles. After a whole 3 years, Small Tower suddenly spoke. Stop. Chapter 21:16. Ling Han's heart beat even faster. If these source powers of heaven and earth all had different attributes, then it was very possible that he could obtain the 9 source powers of heaven and earth that he needed at once here. Then, he would split his soul into 9 parts and advance into the immortal palace tier in his strongest state. In that case, he should not be weaker than Ji Wuming. This is a big deal. Ling Han's heart throbbed with excitement. Furthermore, not only him, but Hunyao and the Empress could also possibly obtain one or two source powers of heaven and earth. Then their battle prowess would also soar greatly. He shared this information with Hunyao and the Empress, causing their hearts to involuntarily speed up. Source powers of heaven and earth could be obtained by fate, but more importantly, if one could not encounter the source powers of heaven and earth, what fate could there be? Smelly Bones, hurry up, Hunyao immediately urged. Xiao Gu was leading the way at the front, and couldn't help but turn around when he heard this. Smelly Bones, hurry up. Shua, before he finished, his head had already been sliced off by a wind blade. But in the process of his head falling off, he was actually still repeating his words. This scene was a little strange, a little creepy, and also a little amusing. Xiao Gu pushed out with one hand, dispersing the oncoming wind blade. He caught the falling head with his other hand, and very casually put it back. He did not even stop, and there was no one else. They walked past a canyon, and a green bell suddenly appeared in front of them. This green bell was very large, 9 meters tall, and about 6 meters in circumference. It should be forged from bronze, and there was copper rust on its outer walls, exuding a simple and ancient aura. With a single glance, everyone felt a strong sense of pressure, their bodies weakening, and they did not even have the strength to stand. Celestial King Tool, Lu Herong exclaimed in shock. The Rock Palace was a large clan, and even in such a disadvantageous situation, she still possessed a celestial tool. But a celestial tool was limited by the cultivation level of the user and the skill of the refiner. Her celestial tool was refined by herself, and after being activated, it could even display might that surpass her own strength. If that was not the case, how could a celestial tool be so precious? But facing this massive green bell, Lu Herong immediately had a feeling that as long as the green bell trembled slightly, a single sound wave would be able to shatter her into pieces. Although it was just a feeling, LV Herong believed it. Not only was this bell an immortal artifact, it was also a seventh celestial artifact. Otherwise, it would not have been able to give her such a strong sense of oppression. Apart from Xiao Gu, everyone else felt an urge to collect it. An immortal king artifact was too precious. However, even Lu Herong did not dare to take a step closer, let alone the others. They could only watch helplessly, which made them feel extremely uncomfortable. Such a precious treasure was right in front of him. They took a detour, wanting to study this celestial weapon in more detail. However, they had only taken 2 steps when shock appeared on their faces again. This bronze bell was actually broken. From the side, one could clearly see that there was a gap in the bell. Not only did it go through one end, but it went through the other end. This is a fist mark, LV Herong suddenly said, and then her pretty face turned pale. That was way too terrifying. Not only was his fist able to resist an immortal weapon, it was even able to pierce through it. What is immortal gold? It is the toughest thing in the world. Even celestial kings could not pierce through it with their bare hands. If they wanted to destroy it, they had to use regulations to smelt it. Celestial weapons forged from immortal gold naturally inherited this characteristic, but reality proved that celestial weapons could also be destroyed by a single punch. This is the Eternal Celestial King's immortal artifact Bell of Time, LV Herong exclaimed. She remembered now. The Eternal Celestial King was a supreme being of the 9th heaven, and had lived for who knew how many epochs. He should have been able to live for countless more epochs, but 8 epochs ago, he suddenly disappeared, never to be seen again. Now his immortal artifact had appeared here, and had been destroyed. What did that prove? 8 epochs ago, the Eternal Celestial King had already died. Not only the rock original ancestor, but the Eternal Celestial King has also fallen here. LV Herong sighed, her tone filled with indescribable loss. The rock original ancestor, the Eternal Celestial King, and the previous palace master of Rock Palace. All of them were 9th heaven celestial kings, and overlords among celestial kings. But so what? They had still died. What was the point of her desperately cultivating? Even 9th heaven celestial kings might not be as free and unfettered as she was. Even the immortal artifact of a 9th heaven celestial king was destroyed with a single punch. Then this person's strength. Linghan paused. Celestial Venerable Tear? The Empress, Hunyo, and Bewitching Maiden Ro exclaimed in unison. Only a Celestial Venerable Tear would have such a powerful mystical ability. No wonder the dark forces didn't take this immortal artifact. Even if it's damaged, it's still a precious treasure, Ling Han said with a nod. That's because the will of the martial art of a ninth heaven celestial king hasn't dissipated. If they want to take it, they can forget about it, unless they're at least at the eighth heaven celestial king. In other words, the celestial king here is definitely below the eighth heaven celestial king, the Empress said, following up on Ling Han's words. This could be confirmed, but it still didn't make them feel at ease. Even fifth heaven, sixth heaven, and seventh heaven celestial kings could still easily suppress LV Herong. And the only variable was Xiaogu. No one knew what his limits were. Let's go. LV Herong had already come back to her senses. Now that the enemy was right in front of them, how could there be time for her to hesitate? If she could become a ninth heaven celestial king, she would be able to resolve the current predicament of the Rock Palace. This was the meaning of strength. Whoosh, a gust of mountain wind blew past. When it passed by the bronze bell, the wind passed through the hole that had been opened and released a sound like the howl of a ghost. Then, the mountain wind took form and transformed into a man dressed in azure. He was handsome and spirited, and there was an indescribable brilliance about him that made one's heart tremble. The eyes of the man in azure swept over Ling Han and the others, and it was like two divine swords slashing past, possessing supreme divine might. LV Herong hurriedly stepped forward. Wang! A sword had already appeared in her hand, and the symbols on the sword all lit up at the same time. Ji! Her figure rapidly retreated, and she brought Ling Han and the others along with her, retreated at least 900 meters in a single breath, all the way until they reached the mountain wall. It was only a gust of wind, because it had passed through the bronze bell, took the form of a human, and forced a dignified fourth heaven celestial king into retreat with a single gaze. This was too ridiculous. Greetings, senior. LV Herong turned her sword around and grasped the hilt with both hands as she respectfully bowed to the man in azure. This should be the owner of the bronze bell, the eternal celestial king. Of course, this human form was only a strand of martial art, that had been left behind in the bell. The true body had died several epochs ago. A look of confusion appeared on the face of the man in azure, and it was as if he was slightly dumbfounded. Ling Han instantly understood. The Bell of Time had naturally been forged by the eternal celestial king, and thus the artifact's spirit was also the will of the eternal celestial king. Thus, even though the eternal celestial king had already passed away several epochs ago, the celestial weapon could still take the form of him, and it possessed some divine might. But because the celestial weapon itself had been destroyed, the artifact's spirit was most likely crippled as well. So the human form that it had taken was also in a dazed state. Wang, right at this moment, Little Goose suddenly lit up. It was the bone in its body. Old bone demon, the man in azure suddenly said, his eyes instantly regaining clarity. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.